Mic check, 1, 1, 2, mic check 1.
Go. All right, we're going to get started here in a minute. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Yeah. Good morning. Today is Thursday, March 12th. This is the time and place for day 2 of the regularly scheduled Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting for the month of March 2026. Before we get started, I would like to ask everyone to please silence their cell phones if you have not done so already. And now may I ask that you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, has our agenda for today been posted in accordance with the open meeting law?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Today we will be covering non-restricted items number 14 through 19 as noted on our March agenda. With that, Madam Secretary, let's proceed with public comments.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters. Anyone wishing to address the board may do so at this time. Comments by each person are limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If board members ask questions of the speaker, the time needed to address those questions will not count against the speaker's 3-minute time period. If speakers have any handouts or written copies of verbal comments to provide for the record, please hand them to the enforcement agent in the room.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Pursuant to state open meeting law, matters brought to the board's attention during public comment cannot be acted upon. However, we are happy to hear comments from the public as well as comments from my fellow board members during this public comment section of our agenda. With that, let's first go to Carson City. If there is anyone in Carson City wishing to make a public comment, please step to the podium now. Very good, seeing none in Carson City. If there's anyone in Las Vegas wishing to make a public comment, please step forward to the podium and state and spell your name for the record. Good morning.
Good morning, IRGN for the Culinary Union, DUYANEN. We recently sent a letter to Senior Deputy Attorney General Gaughan about gaming regulatory issues concerning Baron Capital and their over 10% ownership of Red Rock Resorts. We appreciate DAG Gaughan for forwarding this to the board. We ask that this matter be assigned to the appropriate agent in the appropriate division and look forward to the response. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please provide your comments to the agent. Very good, thank you. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to step forward to make a public comment? Good morning, please state your name and spell it for the record.
Good morning, my name is Erica Howard, ERIKAHOWARD. My public comment is based on the GVR company. I've been working at the Green Valley Ranch for 3 years. I live in the neighborhood. Working at the GVR used to be a pleasure, except over the years I've been feeling unappreciated by the company. The wages haven't been the greatest and workload has been going uphill. Management has been going downhill. And I enjoy working there, but I'm really hoping and praying that wages and management get better, not just for me, but for the people who have dedicated their lives to this company.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you would, please provide written comments to the agent to your left. Thank you. Very good. Is there anybody else who wants to make a public comment in Las Vegas at this time? Seeing none, I'm sorry, yes, Judge Saad.
Thank you, Chairman Droitz. Real quick, I'd just like to acknowledge and commend and thank personally Ms. Nicole Rupert, our Executive Secretary, for what she does for us each and every month, and for the Commission as well. She is the rudder that keeps this ship sailing in the right direction, and I think I can speak for myself and you and Member Sendall as well. We'd like to extend our gratitude and appreciation for the work she does each and every month.
Very good. I can echo that.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Judge. Appreciate that. With that, I think we will close our public comments section for today. Moving on, next on our agenda are our remaining non-restricted items. Madam Secretary, please read in non-restricted item number 14.
Non-restricted number 14 are the applications of Michael Gaughan III for finding of suitability and or licensure as a member, manager, and or key employee as noted on the agenda.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Dreitzer, Member Assad, Member Sendall, Secretary Rupert. Sean McGinnis with Greenberg Traurig on behalf of Clarity Game and Mike Gaughan. To my right is the applicant, Michael Gaughan. This application is a follow-up to an item that was on the agenda last March when Clarity Game purchased Stockman's Casino from Full House Resorts in Fowl. And at that time, David Ross and Mike were both on the agenda. Mike had not gone through the suitability process or investigatory process since 2011 at that time. So he was granted a 1-year limited license with the understanding that he would apply and come forward again to basically finish the investigation. We appreciate that accommodation from the board and the commission. And if it's appropriate, I was just going to turn it over to Mike to read a statement in the record and sort of give an introduction about what's gone on in the last course of the year with the investigation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gaughan. Good morning.
Thank you, Chairman, members, Madam Secretary, for the opportunity to speak with you today. I would like to address the issue of timeliness of my responses to the document request during this investigation. First off, I'd like to thank the board for granting me the limited license that allowed me to participate in the daily management of Stockman's Casino when we assumed operations in April of 2025, while my investigation was being completed. I understand this was a special allowance, and I appreciate the board's consideration. I would also like to thank Agent Simpson for her patience and professionalism while working with me during the investigative process. When I began compiling the requested materials, I realized that a significant amount of the information that was required, particularly because my financial situation had changed since I had done it last time. It changed considerably, and So, but unfortunately, during this process, my wife and I experienced a cyber fraud security breach involving our personal banking accounts. Our home phone number was ported without our authorization, which allowed unauthorized access to several of our accounts. Fortunately, we were able to stop a $40,000 wire that was being completed. And following that incident, we immediately shut down online access to our accounts and closed several of the accounts while the banks tried to secure everything. While necessary, these steps made it difficult for me to access and retrieve certain financial records and statements that were requested for the investigation. It took some time to secure the accounts and obtain replacement records from the banks, but many of these documents were received were not easily organized by date or account. So I know Agent Simpson had issues finding the right information. I recognize that this created delays in providing the requested materials to Agent Simpson. I fully understand the importance of providing timely and complete information to the board and its agents, and I take that responsibility very seriously. I want to sincerely apologize to Agent Simpson and to the Nevada Gaming Board for these delays. It was certainly never my intention to slow the investigative process. I appreciate the work of the board and the agents, what the agents do to maintain the integrity of gaming in Nevada, and I'm committed to uphold those standards. I'm grateful for your patience during this situation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding my application, Stockman's Casino, or the process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gaughan. I think, from my perspective, getting right to the issue, I don't think there's any doubt that you are qualified to be the license holder for this particular location. And that, from my perspective, that's not an issue. I do want to ask at the end about how the new ownership's going, but we're going to set that aside for a minute, right? In this particular case, your lack of responsiveness, while I appreciate the cyber fraud concern, which certainly in this day and age happens, and that's understandable, the problem is that you ignored the agent repeatedly over what amounts to a period of up to 9 months. And that's simply unacceptable. By my count, and I think I've got this right, you have been a licensee in the state of Nevada for more than 36 years. And by my count, you have held approximately 13 licenses. Of all people, certainly with the name Gaughan that has had so much respect in the city and been synonymous with gaming in Las Vegas and Nevada, you should have understood that, this period of time ignoring repeatedly an agent for requests for up to 9 months is unacceptable. In addition, of course, we were more than willing, and the agents worked very hard to make sure that you had the timing you needed to have the 1 year limited to get what you needed done. So we're happy to accommodate, but certainly we didn't get the response that we require in response. And so, yeah, I have to make that statement that, it's completely unacceptable. You're as veteran as anybody I know in terms of gaming and how this all works. And so I appreciate the words, but in this particular case, words aren't enough, right? It's a significant concern. So while I will certainly support the application, I am going to, I want to discuss it with the board members, but my thought would be to refer this to the Attorney General's office for a measure of discipline related to this matter. And that process will unfold as it unfolds. What's your reaction to what I've said?
Well, I understand that you need to do whatever you need to do. And I think that's your job as chairman of the Nevada Gaming Board. And you want to be clear. And I think what I need to do. So in 2011, I had 3 accounts, me, my wife's, and we had a joint account. Here we had multiple accounts, other things that happened outside of my personal stuff, family trusts and things like that, that are very complicated and didn't put together. And then we had just kind of started 2 businesses, or really 3, because I had my own, and then we started Fallon because we had acquired that in September of 24, and Colorado. We have 2 casinos there. So what I'm doing moving forward is having all that information generally that you could expect Nevada Gaming to request. And it's saved, it's ready to copy and paste somewhere where they can get to it. And that's one thing I wish I would have done. A lot of the statements we were receiving were PDFs that weren't very easy to say. Like, I had 3 accounts on one file for like a year and a half. It's very awkward to be able to explain to where now I want it to be by account, by year, by month. And so that if somewhere down the road, I have an opportunity to be in front of you again, hopefully that information got to who it needed to get to early and often. So if there's any questions, anything additional information they need, they would have that ready. So, but as far as whatever you need to do for that, I'm willing to face those, whatever it is I need to do.
Understood. And really, you know, as a board member who in my past had gone through this process multiple times in Nevada, right? And as I'm sure you know, the agents are very, very supportive, and they want to, you know, be as accommodating as they can. So the issue, and I appreciate that you're making these changes so that these things don't happen again. But from my perspective, the issue was a lack of communication over extended periods of time. To this idea that Ms. Simpson and others reached out to you repeatedly and there was nothing, there was crickets. And that's a problem, especially when we were, you know, working real hard. The board staff was working real hard to get you established in here. The time frame was tight and there was just no response. So I can't imagine the circumstance. Had you been more communicative with the agents about what you just told us?
Yeah.
But had you done so timely, then we'd have a different discussion. But the idea is just to be as timely as you can. I cannot imagine a circumstance where you have what by all accounts is a very reasonable and serious issue with the hack and all of that. I get it. I can't imagine one of our agents would say, well, too bad, here's the date anyway. That's not how we operate. So, but they didn't know, they didn't hear from you. And so to me, that's more of the issue. Just as you should know, as I think perhaps in the past, certainly given your long history in gaming, you get some benefit of the doubt, but you should know that, you know, communication upfront with the agents with as much transparency as you can is the right way. Knowing you have circumstances you have to address, we fully get that. I sympathize. I think many of us do relative to the cyber incident and others, but you know, we didn't know. And so that's a big issue. Obviously you have quite learned counsel here with Mr. McGinnis. I'm sure in the past you have had as well. Communicate through him if you need to, or directly, but let's make sure, certainly given your history in gaming, you need to know, and I'm sure you know that has to be transparent, has to be as quickly as possible.
If I could interject, Mr. Chairman,
Please.
it wasn't like there was like no communication at all for 9 months. What happened was got approved, and then we had to file a brand new Form 1. There was delay in getting the Form 1 filed. That was a couple of months. So we got to like May. Then the document request came in. There was dialogue with Agent Simpson initially. That's near when the hack happened. And when the hack happened, then it went silent for several months, as it were. But then we informed her about the hack, and then we got extensions from her to provide the documents, and then there'd be silence again. So it wasn't like it was complete ignoring the agent for 8 or 9 months or anything. It wasn't exactly like that. There was dialogue.
And I will say too, I wish I would have taken the pieces that I had together and shipped those off.
Yeah, because certainly there were other
I
things
should
you
have
could have
done
done
that,
while
as
you were.
opposed to trying to wait to like, okay, I'm going to have the whole package for her and give her that. And there's no doubt.
Okay, I think that if fair points to characterize it that way is fair, but there were long gaps here where there no communication. And yes,
Yeah.
to the extent that you were dealing with one set of issues, certainly you had other records that you could provide in that process. So I appreciate that you acknowledge that. So I wanted to just quickly turn to the business itself, the recent acquisition. Could you give a business update as to how Stockman's is going?
So in On April 1st of this year we will have had the property for 1 year. I think the operation has been successful. We've changed about 40% of the floor. We have about 10 more machines on than we did when we took it over, but and I think we've had good response. I think in the last few months, one of my favorite responses has been, you know, hey, there's a couple players here who haven't been here for 5 years and they're coming in, they're playing with us again. So I don't know what happened, why they weren't playing there, but now maybe it's the games they want to play or the atmosphere, but it's definitely great. We've done some remodeling, we've painted it, we've done some fixes on the outside. Bit of our improvements have been the stuff you don't see, HVAC and some of those things. But on Monday morning, I'll be flying to Reno, to Fallon. We start our project that's kind of put off a bit of other things. We have to replace every drain grease trap from our kitchen to our bar and out to the grease trap. And of course, our kitchen's on one side of the building, the grease trap is on the other. So that line runs right through the middle of the casino. And that's not going to be a fun project. But once that's done, we can change the carpet and do some other things there. But all in all, during that process, we're going to clean up the kitchen, modernize it a little bit, dress up the coffee shop, and then hopefully somewhere near down the road, if we have the right staff in place, look at reopening the steakhouse.
Very good. I appreciate that. And again, there's no question that given your history and capability that you are the right guy for this. And certainly we want to see our properties and licensees in Fallon and everywhere thrive. So we appreciate that. And so one other thing to consider, and again, we will have a discussion towards the end of this, is potential for a limited license to possibly have you go through this again in a couple of years. That's a potential option as well for discussion. So, but having said that, and having gone through the discussion about how the failure to provide documents timely and communicate timely was unacceptable, that's on the record now, and we'll go from there. But as to this particular application, I certainly will support it for the reasons indicated.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Judge Assad.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Dreitzer. And I echo Chairman Dreitzer's comments and his concerns as well. As far as the application itself, you're eminently qualified for the license. You're exceptionally suitable to be a member manager and to be a key employee and the general manager of this property. And I'm glad to hear it's doing well. We need all the efforts going in the right direction for Northern Nevada. The rurals need all the help they can get. And I appreciate you and Mr. Ross taking on this project. It could have been easily overlooked and you could have just concentrated down here. So on behalf of all the employees that you're hiring and families you're feeding and food on the table and kids you're putting through college in the rurals, I want to thank you and commend you for that. And I'd probably be remiss if I didn't thank your granddad, Jackie, and your dad for the same thing, for the countless thousands and thousands of people that you all have employed. And again, just all the food on the table and the kids that got to go to college and had a decent living, that should not go unnoticed. And your family, it's iconic, and they're definitely a pioneer in this industry, and I appreciate that. And I think just the warning is sufficient here as far as the issue on the delay. I don't see any need to elevate this to anything more than that. I'm in favor of an unlimited license. I see no reason to limit the license. So with that, I want to wish you well, and I'm in full support of your application.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we turn it over, I had one quick question. Do you have an ownership interest in the South Point?
I have an ownership interest through the trust. If you want to have that discussion, I would suggest bringing in my accountant, because
No, it's fine. I just wanted to just top line clarity on it.
I use the same guy my father, my grandfather used. you
Yeah,
know,
just
stuff like
wanted,
that.
because in the
It's-
materials, that was a bit unclear. I just wanted to ask.
It
top
was,
line.
it's very, I mean, technically the trust owns the South Point and I'm part of that trust, but like
Sure.
from ownership thing, it's like 0.08 from 4%. I mean, it's a very small non-voting thing. And I cannot explain to you, and I apologize, just
There's no need.
why I have that particular part of that. But you know, that's part of the changes from 2011 to here. I think the trust was very, a little bit more simplified, and they've done things to sort of change it over the years from John D. Gaughan Trust to Michael Gaughan Trust, and some of those things have changed. So, but yes, but no, I don't. To be honest with you, I'm not involved with the day-to-day operations at the South Point.
That's understood. I just wanted to just clarify that one point for the record, and
Okay.
that top line explanation suffices. Thank you. Thank you. Member Sendall.
Thank you and good morning. I appreciate your affirmative presentation and acknowledging the lack of proper communication with our agent, and we can discuss that more. But I did want to first kind of talk more about your background a little bit in Stockman's. I understand you have been licensed 13 plus times here in Nevada. I was curious though, being a newer member to the board and getting back involved in the gaming industry. You worked at other properties, but then back, I believe it was about 2018 that you started your own company, Clarity
Yes.
Gaming. Can you kind of explain why then and why the transition at that point, and where you've kind of developed and evolved in your career?
Yeah.
since then?
So my partner David and I, we go back a long time. I coached me in basketball when I was 14 years old. So we go back a long time, but we look to start a business, kind of our own business. And so as I wound down from the Rampart JW Marriott in 2018, my contract ended in December 31st of 2018. We had been looking for properties, and COVID obviously threw a bit of a wrench into that situation, but that was the goal. He has 2 children, I have 3. And, part of that was to have a company that we start building, Stockman's Casino and Fallon just is a building block of hopefully something larger. And so that's what we did. Like I said, so for the 2019, we'd actually looked at these properties in Colorado during that time, and were moved on to other things and came back to it later on. But COVID kind of blew things out of the water there for a while, and we didn't really get started until started locking things down until 24.
And because you are also, as you kind of mentioned a little bit, you're licensed in Colorado and
Yes.
in Washington, DC. Okay, and then can you tell me a little bit more about your involvement at Stockman's? I think I saw you mentioned you're visiting there next week, but how often do you get out to the property, and then how often are you in communication?
I'm usually up there once or twice a month.
Okay.
August of last month, I was up there quite a bit more. Our GM who we hired, who was a friend of ours, worked with us at the Rampart JW. He had planned a vacation for the month of August. So David and I were acting a little bit as GM during that time period. So we were either he or myself were there on property in August, but
Is that
otherwise.
Mr. Capone or
What's
Mr.
up?
Capone, the GM?
Lou Capone, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And, but otherwise I'm there once or twice a month, depending on what's going on and stuff like that. And for March, I'll be there next week. And then, if I'm lucky enough to move on to the commission on the 26th, I'm traveling the next day up to there again. We're doing little things with the team up there because we're on our 1-year anniversary up there. So.
Got it. Yeah. And I think you had like your daughter with you last March when you came in. Oh, there she is waving in the back.
Yes.
And she's involved in the business as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she travels with me once in a while or does things. She's been more involved with Colorado. They've needed more help and expertise and things with different things. But yes, she's involved with us there. So
That's great. I obviously, as the judge mentioned, you got a history. This is a family affair working in the gaming industry. And I'm glad to see that you see yourself continuing to have the same level of involvement moving forward at Stockman's then?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And about how many employees are out there currently?
If we were full right now, we'd be about 42, I think. We could be at 39 before the end of the day, but we're at 40 right now,
You're
I believe.
pretty
Yeah.
close, but you feel like you have a full
Yes.
capacity and able to operate the
Yeah,
property.
we were able to condense a little bit of the operation a little bit there, and we're good with the number we have. It works pretty good, but just a couple positions aren't filled.
Since you took over last year, then you did have to kind of let some people go and streamline some of it, or?
We brought every employee over,
Okay,
and then through attrition, and like I said, we combined the club. The club was standalone, the cage was standalone. We kind of put those into one thing, and we were able to lose a body or two there, depending on the shift. So that's how we were able to kind of reduce some things. As you're aware, if you remember, might have been a discussion, was they had table games there, Keno, and the steakhouse in operation, but they had closed all those prior. I don't think they were profit center for them, so they closed all those prior to us taking over. And probably wouldn't have Keno. Maybe table games would be a project down the road. And like I said, the steakhouse is something that we're looking to do, but we need to help that kitchen out a bit. And that's this process next week.
another project that you're
Yeah.
working on,
Yeah.
right, for the next year. And next time when you give us an update, hopefully that'll be open.
Yep.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear that's going well. And you mentioned the remodeling. And then you also, I believe we had, you're going to have a new sports book operator there starting. And when's that anticipated?
Yes. So actually our partner, Joe Asher, up there with Boomer Sportsbook, he installs on Friday, May 1st.
Okay, great. And then obviously, I guess the last thing I want to hit on is the area of concern, as both the chairman at length and the judge mentioned. I appreciate your response. I agree, fully with the chairman's statements, and you are very qualified, aside from this one issue. And I don't, in your 13 times previously being licensed, I didn't see anything in the materials or anything that there was a problem with that process. I know, as you mentioned, since the time of your last licensure, now as you mentioned, you have maybe a lot more financial statements and whatnot. But as the chairman highlighted, to me, kind of the main impetus and failure here was just not communicating that, right, to the board and the agents as your line of communication, either through your counsel here who's with you. And I know there was some communication, but I also personally felt that until it was sort of communicated that, hey, this is going to be a potential area of concern, it took taking it to that level of elevation to get kind of what I think would be the level of responsiveness that should have occurred earlier in the beginning. And so that's, in looking at this holistically, kind of the failure there and learning point I would hope that you would take from this. And as the chairman mentioned, separately from this, potentially seeking disciplinary action and see where that course of line goes in that regard. But as far as your overall suitability and your licensure here today, I'm happy to support your licensure at this point. And I would just ask, hopefully it's something you can reflect upon. And I don't know, what do you take away from this situation, and hopefully something you can learn and ensure maybe in your operations as a businessman that, in other aspects of your career, that you don't, the importance of communicating, and things get rough, things happen, but the need to ensure through your, and I know maybe perhaps it was a very stressful time for you and your family to go through the cyber incident and the attack, but to utilize, like your counsel in that regard then, and just let us know, hey, I need time, and it's going to be a little while, but just making sure those communications happen, I think, is really, really critical.
Yeah, I understand. And I'm in agreement. And in my position that I'm in, if I had an employee or someone or vendor or someone who didn't communicate, there'd be an issue. So I understand that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And I do hope that this is something that you do reflect on and ensure that, in your general practice and of your business overall, that, it doesn't happen again. And we all kind of make mistakes and things happen and we learn and grow from it. And I hope this is an opportunity where, it won't happen again. And then we will see, as the chairman mentioned, separately what happens aside. in that regard. But other than that, that's kind of where I'm at currently, Chairman. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Sindall.
Thank you very much, Member Sindall. And I agree with the judge. At this stage, I don't think a limitation makes sense. So I think that I definitely support providing this without limitation. And then with respect to disciplinary proceedings, as Mr. McGinnis knows, that could take multiple forms. At a minimum, we would, through that process, want you to document some of the things you discussed today with respect to the things you'll do to make sure this won't happen again moving forward, right? But I also understand and respect your long history, and to the judge's point, the number of individuals you've employed and all that. But we appreciate that. It's, as you know, that's not an excuse, but I certainly appreciate it. And, you know, candidly, given your history, we expect a high standard of all licensees, but from you especially, right? Given your knowledge of the industry, given your history here, multi-generational and such. So I would, again, support a non-restricted license at this time, and then we can, you know, take up the matter moving forward to at minimum or otherwise document the things that will change going forward. Because of course, as to communication with agents, we just have to draw that line when these issues arise. So I'm sure you can appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
And with that, I believe we're ready for a motion.
Thank you, Chairman Dreitzer. I move to recommend approval of non-restricted agenda item number 14 as read into the record by Madam Secretary Rupert.
Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Sindall?
Aye.
Chairman Dreitzer?
Aye. It passes. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. We'll then turn to non-restricted item number 15.
Non-restricted number 15 are the applications of Carlos Castro for finding of suitability and or licensure as an officer, key executive, and or key employee as noted on the agenda.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Good morning, Ms. Okerberg. Welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Dreitzer, and good morning, Judge Assad, Member Sendall, Madam Secretary. For the record, I am Erica Okerberg. I am Nevada Gaming Counsel to Resorts World Las Vegas. Here with me today, I have the applicant, Carlos Castro. He has previously been licensed and appeared before the board and commission, but has not had the pleasure of appearing before this board. So he's going to share with you an overview of his background and then talk with you about his duties and responsibilities in his role, if that's acceptable.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Castro. Good
Thank you.
morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Chairman Dreitzer, Member Assad, Member Sindall, Madam Secretary. Thank you again for having me. Again, as Ms. Okenberg noted, I have been licensed in 2006, again in 2016, and now I'm up for 26. It's something I like to do every 10 years. It keeps me fresh and motivated. So if I can take a moment just to express some gratitude, everything that I have is related to the Nevada gaming industry. And I take that very seriously. The fact that we're sitting here today, I take very seriously the work that this board has done, the boards before you, the commissions before, throughout my 20 years in this industry. I just want to express gratitude and thanks for the agents that worked with me on this case. Senior agent, who I won't name, and supervising agent, who I won't name, were fantastic through the process. But really, thank you to all the auditors, all the agents, all the investigators, everybody who makes this industry and sets the foundation of integrity that I've been so fortunate to have been a part of. So with that, I will go into my background, if that pleases the board.
Yes, please proceed. Thank you.
So I've been in this business. I started in this business about 41 years ago as a bellman. I'm not going to bore you with all the minutia, but I started as a bellman at the Hilton Pavilion in Mesa, Arizona in 1985, and worked my way through that organization. And then I transferred to the Phoenician Resort in Scottsdale, Arizona as a bell captain. From there, I made a decision to transfer to UNLV from Arizona State University to pursue a career in this amazing industry of ours up in Nevada. And from there, I worked at the Alexis Park for a couple of years while I finished my degree at UNLV. After graduating from UNLV, I took a position with a company called Hospitality Evaluation Services. It's a boutique consulting firm. And I spent some time in New York, about 6 months in New York, because the president of the company wouldn't hire somebody from UNLV until I proved myself that I was worthy, and then made me an offer, but I didn't want to live in New York, so I moved to San Francisco and joined the firm in their San Francisco office.
And I worked there for approximately 5 years until Hilton, who was one of my clients, tapped me on the shoulder and said, let's cut out the middleman. Why don't you come move to Beverly Hills and work for us at the corporate office for Hilton Hotels? Mr. Bolenbach had just taken over the company. And so it was a very growth-oriented time. I came over as the executive director of gaming feasibility and investment analysis, and that all did fit on a business card. And was working on some fantastic projects in LA. We acquired Bally's, we acquired Grand Casinos, we acquired Caesars. The company split from Hilton into Park Place Entertainment. And at that time, I left Los Angeles and moved to Las Vegas, where I've been ever since. And that was a wonderful organization. I was in corporate finance for several years there. And then I was tapped on the shoulder by our CEO at the time, Wally Barr, who said, I'd like you to go work at Paris Bally's and get some operating experience, property level operating experience under your belt, so that one day you can be one of my presidents. So I went to Bally's Paris, and I was there for a couple of years. And then the company decided to merge with Harrah's. And given my background in mergers and acquisitions, I knew that I was more likely to be a synergy in that transition than staying employed. And so that's the time where, at the time, Mr. Harry Haggerty was our CFO. He was good friends with Mr. Murrin. He passed him my resume, and Jim and Bill Hornbuckle brought me over to Mandalay Bay as the vice president and chief financial officer right at the acquisition when MGM bought out Mandalay Bay Group. In fact, my first day on the job was Mr. Hornbuckle and I taking the keys from Mr. Alamo, and we are now running the building. So it was, again, a very exciting time. I spent the next 9.5 years at Mandalay Bay as senior vice president and chief financial officer. Then I was tapped on the shoulder by Mr. Murrin again to go to the corporate office and stand up corporate planning and analysis and some other corporate initiatives. That lasted about a year when I was tapped again on the shoulder by Mr. Murrin to go over and work with Mr. Baldwin at Aria City Center to work with the joint venture partners there to drive EBITDA and to dispose of some assets there. And I spent approximately 5.5, almost 6 years at Aria as senior vice president and chief financial officer in that capacity. And then an opportunity came from the company through a restructuring and a cost savings initiative where I was offered a severance package as part of a global company-wide program. And the timing was very fortuitous and the deal was very good. And so I chose to go into, let's call it an extended hiatus. And I took about 6 years off. And then through some contacts, I understood that the Resorts World position was open, the COO/CFO. So that knowing several of the team members at Resorts World, knowing that Mr. Murrin had just joined the board, Mr. Tondo had just joined the board. I had worked with them in my past over several years of experience with a lot of the team members there. It was a very good opportunity. And so I came out of retirement, came out of my hibernation hiatus and joined the company. And that was about a year ago. I celebrated my year mid-February.
Very good. Thank you for that. Anything further, Ms. Okerberg, or should we go to questions?
Nothing further from me. Thank you.
Very good. Well, Mr. Castro, welcome. As I'm sure you know, you've been talked about quite a lot, at least the last 2 meetings. So it's nice to finally have you here in person.
Thank you, sir.
Your timing has been very interesting, to say the least, you joining Resorts World in February of 25, right? And that's right at a time when I think by all accounts that began a period of a fair number of issues and changes. So I think you certainly are, given your position and then now your subsequent position, you're uniquely positioned to give a perspective what has happened over the last year. And obviously we have the Resorts World issues are well known to the board. And there have been in-depth discussions and meetings and otherwise about culture of compliance, compliance committee, independence of compliance, all of that sort of thing. Those have been well hashed. But I think I would like to hear from your perspective as essentially the leader of the business, how you see these issues, such as where the company has come in the last year. If you could address in that culture of compliance, importance of compliance, independence of compliance, obviously AML. So I'll give you one general question, but I'm sure you've been following the hearings the last few months. We had a number of certainly folks come on behalf of Resorts World the last 2 hearings. And so we're ready to hear from you. So if you could speak to those issues, I would appreciate that.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman. Yes, a lot has happened over the last year, and really it's been driven by the board. And so you have seen some outstanding individuals come before you, Governor Sandoval, A.G. Burnett, Michelle Detondo, Huey Lim, Cole Haan, all outstanding individuals who have set the tone. And it really is the reason why I joined the company. I would probably not have joined the company had it not been for those individuals and just the privilege to work alongside them, be mentored by them. So we started very quickly in terms of my assessment and our assessment of the business, and really starting with that culture of compliance. Really, it is compliance over commerce. And how are we going to rebuild the culture? Because it is the intangibles that you have to fix first, right? It's the leadership team. It's the people that sit in that leadership meeting and look each other in the eye and say, I'm not going to let you down. I'm not going to make a mistake. I'm not going to do this because of this. And so that's it's a kind of that joint accountability. And so we've really I've strived to build a team to rebuild that leadership team under the guise of compliance first. And again, that is a very clear directive from the board. There is no ambiguity there. There is no gray. This is how we're going to run the business. This is how we're going to do business. And if you can't get on board with that, then there's not a place for you here at Resorts World. And so we have made some changes in the senior leadership team. Speaking directly with compliance, Jennifer Roberts was a huge addition to the team. And I've heard this board say several times that this is not rocket science, and that a culture of compliance should be pretty straightforward. And that's the direction we've taken. We've looked at this from a risk-based assessment. One of my first meetings, when I met with Erica after joining, I met with internal audit. And I went through our previous internal audit reports. I met with Robert Wheeler. We assessed the situation. I asked him for his full, unbiased, objective, because he does report to the board, view on the business. And then we started to make plans in terms of what areas need concern, what areas should we go after first. And we built that plan around the operations addressing risk. Compliance specifically, Jennifer's come on. And again, we thank the board for your flexibility in allowing us to deviate from the settlement document and really allowing her to restructure and reorganize the compliance team, focusing heavily on AML. Because again, listening to this board in many hearings, AML presents the greatest risk in terms of our compliance department. And so how do we stop it before it begins? How do we stop before the placement of illicit funds enters the system, right? Classic AML training. And it is through, know your customer. It's through KYC. And then what is the customer due diligence process? And how can we beef that up? How can we beef up when it warrants it, the enhanced due diligence process, EDD? So looking at knowing who we're going to do business with. And if they don't meet the criteria, they don't get an opportunity to gamble with us, play with us. They're either placed on a gaming ban, or if it's an egregious due diligence process and information that we found, it's a full property ban. And Jennifer and her team, the compliance team, have full autonomy in that decision-making process. So I know that's been important to the board, and that is what we've instituted. And there's no questions. There's no pushback. The biggest thing when we reorganized the leadership group, you can imagine there was a lot of silos, and the culture was very casino host centric. And casino hosts make decisions, they're not questioned, they do what they need to do because they're driving all this business to the property. So we've completely reworked that. And so now those, again, silos are broken down. Casino marketing speaks with compliance, operations speaks with compliance, surveillance speaks with compliance. So we have all of those key areas that should be looking at what's going on the floor, speaking to each other, speaking openly, knowing that you need to bring this to compliance. If there's any question, whether it comes to the hotline, whether it comes through a direct call to Jennifer, whether it comes to a call to me, Lou Dorn, Elizabeth, whoever that might be, that's the process. So I'm proud in terms of a year of where we are now compared to where we were. We've also made other changes throughout the business where we've We've restructured the entire marketing organization. I'm in the process of looking at the facilities organization. We've redone the entire Far East International Marketing Department. We've redone the National Marketing Department. So some of these areas have experienced, 70, 80, 90% complete turnover. All senior leadership in those areas have been turned over, all with a focus on compliance and doing what's right. And again, eliminating any ambiguity in that equation.
Thank you for that. Now, functionally speaking, you don't have to give me a specific example, but have there been instances where Ms. Roberts or the compliance function has weighed in and perhaps in consultation with marketing function, they weighed in and then the marketing function's been overruled? Is this happening quite often?
They're very much aligned now. I would say in the past that was kind of the common practice, but now they're very much aligned. So it's a debate. They're not always going to agree 100%, but they know that Jennifer has the autonomy to make that decision, and her decision is the final decision. So I can't give you a specific instance where there's been this massive disagreement. I think it's like, hey, here's what we think. Okay, duly noted, but this is the decision.
All right. And then could you explain, I guess, what's described as a functional reporting structure for Ms. Roberts and to you and then separately to the board? In practice, how does that work?
So she reports to the board of directors, and then let's call that a dot lines to me. Jennifer and I meet biweekly. Obviously, we meet in weekly or monthly for the board reporting. But her and our communication is almost daily. So whether it's email, text, it's the weekend. So anything that comes up that we need to have a discussion about, anything that's going to go before the board, anything that's going to be self-disclosed, we have that conversation. So our communication is pretty much every day, nonstop. And then in her communication to the board, she meets regularly with AG. She actually presents to the board on a monthly basis. So the functional reporting is structured through the board, but then her and I talk constantly.
Your board has been described as, for lack of a better term, a team of equals, obviously with Chairman Sandoval, but how do you interact with the board on a regular basis? What should we know about that?
Yeah, so we have 12 board meetings, and then we have 4 with Genting Berhad. So we have 16 board meetings. There's a lot of communication on a formal basis in our presentations, in our monthly presentations. We just had our last board meeting last night. On an informal basis, I communicate with Governor Sandoval regularly. We have a biweekly standing meeting. It's usually a Teams call or a phone call, given he's up in Reno. So our communication, again, I will text him, I will email him, I will call him if there's something that rises to the level, or just how's it going? Here's something that's going on. I want you to know this about the property. I wanted you to know this. This is, good news is delivered frequently. Bad news is delivered immediately. So, but there really hasn't been any bad news to deliver. I communicate regularly with AG. I have a monthly call with Huey Lim. I communicate probably less with Gaughan, given his calendar is very busy. I communicate quite often with Michelle DeTondo. We have a relationship that goes back to the Caesars days and the Park Place days, and she is a tremendous business resource. So I am in constant communication with the board. I probably see the board more than I see my family, but.
And I would suggest that that's a large number of times for the board to meet.
Yes, sir.
And I understand there's no intention of dialing that down to quarterly or anything like that.
We brought it up, but again, I serve at the board's pleasure. If they want to meet monthly, that's fine with me. It doesn't impact us, but I just wanted this board to know that the communication is constant, but it's not burdensome. I welcome it.
So looking around now with, sorry, go ahead.
I just say it's constructive. It's
Thank you. Looking around with what you have accomplished in the last year in terms of the team that's been assembled around you, above you, below you, all of that, how much more work do you have to do to get the team that you feel is the team and that everything at least is where it needs to be?
From an executive committee perspective, I think there's probably 2 positions left to address. From a departmental, let's call it the next level down, we just finished basically hiring for our entire food and beverage organization. And we have some amazing individuals coming on there. The next look is facilities. It's a massive operation. And so I'm looking at the leadership team there. I'm looking at below that level. But we're very close, Mr. Chairman. We're very close. I'm very confident that the team we've assembled, the level of involvement, right, is less as we bring on people that are very competent, very motivated, very driven. They know what they're doing. There's no need to micromanage them. It's to give them the strategic direction and let them do their jobs. Marketing is one area where I'm very involved in. I have not hired a vice president or senior vice president of marketing, but we've rebuilt that entire team. When I find the right candidate, we'll bring them on, but I just haven't found the right candidate yet. So I'm involved in that very heavily.
And then moving just briefly to the business side, how has the business gone? Obviously, in addition to the compliance challenges, you've had business challenges. What's the outlook there? What are your thoughts generally about the position of your property in the North Strip and all of that?
I'm very confident in our position on the North Strip. I think we have some great neighbors, the Wynn organization, Fontainebleau. Eventually, Circus will be redeveloped, and I think that's going to be the new epicenter for Las Vegas and of luxury in that North Hub. From a business perspective, if we go back to the summer, it was a very difficult summer. Everything that you read in terms of low rates and a lot of interesting pricing schemes, it was true. It's really driven by the international travel. So, as we start to plan for the upcoming summer, if the Canadians come back, if they come back from Mexico and South America, I think we're going to be in good shape. If they don't, I think it's going to be another very challenging summer. Our first quarter results are fantastic. The convention business, as you heard Mr. Hill describe, has been record levels. So we're very happy with our first quarter convention business. It's turning out to be a very, very good quarter for us. If you go back to the end of last year, we had some cleanup to do on the balance sheet in Q4. And so that impacted, results. Adjusted results looked okay, but not where we want them to be. So we're very optimistic about where we're at with Q1, rolling into Q2, the back half of that with the summer. We're going to be prepared. We're going to add, value adds to the consumer. We're hearing the consumer loud and clear. They don't want to be nickel and dimed. And so at Resorts World, we want to provide them convenience. We want to provide them unparalleled service and value. And that's what we're going to be doing. And so we're optimistic about the back half of the year. F1 has been tremendous for us, for the city. NFR has been, again, tremendous for the city. For the property, we had an amazing 2 weeks with NFR. And then, we roll off into New Year's and start it all over again. So
you have plans you obviously have a bunch of land there and opportunities for further development. To the extent that you can share, what are your thoughts about the need to continue to evolve Resorts World from a physical standpoint?
Absolutely. We have about 46 acres, prime location. We believe we are the prime spot for an arena down the road. We believe that we are ready to build a world-class convention center with a hotel extension on that. We need to drive demand to the campus. And so we're looking for those assets that will drive significant demand to the campus. And then with the other acreage, we're looking at other attractions that we can bring in again to drive demand, not just to Resorts World, but to the north end of the quarter. And we think that, again, an arena is the perfect place at Resorts World and for the North Strip.
Very good. And then last question around that narrative that had been going around how Vegas was losing its value proposition and overpriced. So what are your thoughts about where that stands today and what you may be doing about it to change perceptions in that regard?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope when you're in the summer and you're charging, $10 for a room. In order to offset that, there has to be high fees and, expensive water. Because in order to cover the fixed costs, and these buildings are massive fixed cost monsters. And so in order just to cover your fixed costs, you've got to be creative in that. We kind of flipped it on its side. And we said, look, let's provide the customer value. So we have complimentary parking for locals, and that will never change. And we offered last summer complimentary parking for all of our guests. We're going to be reevaluating that strategy. But we also dropped the resort fee. So we have no resort fee for a luxury property on the Strip. We did that last summer. And it was well received by the customers. So you come in and you get a very value-oriented product. So you can stay at the Hilton, but you enjoy all the other assets of the property. So rather than dropping roommates down to below cost of occupied room, we're looking at maintaining the integrity on the room side and then providing value in other areas. We have value across the campus in food and beverage. happy hours, select menus, prefix menus, all drived at, providing a very, value-oriented experience for the customer.
Thank you for those thoughts. Well, certainly given your background, there's no question from a suitability and the standpoint of your ability here. You clearly are, from my perspective, the right man for the job. I think you have in these last 12 months shown that quite a bit, that, you are making all of the necessary changes with, I think, necessary support from the board and from ownership, consistent with all the input that we've received over the last several hearings, right? So I'm looking at it all together, and I'm seeing a really substantive, thoughtful change. I joined in July of last year, which was in the middle of all of it. And so I don't have a full perspective. I want to hear what my fellow board members have to say about this relative to the overall arc. They were here for all of it or most of it. And so from my perspective, I see at every level, it's not just assembling, quote unquote, an all-star team, right? Of people who are names or what have you. That's clearly not what you've done. You've done well more than that. And I think at every level, again, ownership, board, management, it's been very thoughtful about how you've gone about it. You recognize and, from my perspective, embrace that you had a fair amount of challenges to overcome, and that required some heavy lifting, some change, significant change of personnel, significant change of reporting structures and all of it. And I appreciate that within this last year, there's substantial evidence to show that you've walked the walk and talked the talk and gone the hard yards to do what's needed. Clearly, I'm sure you'd agree there's a lot more work still ahead.
Yes, sir.
And every day presents another challenge and concerns, as we all have. But I want to go on record as saying that I appreciate sitting here March in 26 and looking how far both you and the team has come. That I think it's been rather commendable. And as we've said, we have a great respect for the team and for Ms. Roberts. We've said that repeatedly. We believe in her and her ability to do all of what's necessary to have the independence of compliance. But of course, as you said today, culture of compliance goes not just to Ms. Roberts, it goes to the whole organization. And I'm hearing very specific examples and a commitment to that. So I support your application here today. And I look forward to seeing you as we move along here and watching your progress. And again, I commend the efforts in what must have been a most interesting, but certainly difficult 12 months.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you are correct, yes.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for that. Judge Assad.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Dreutzer. I obviously echo all the comments the chairman made as far as your resume and your CV and your background, your experience, and the property as well. You have a stellar background. You're eminently qualified to run this property. I just wished you had been there at the beginning and with Jennifer Roberts, because if you two had been in place and the board, I think it would have, we would never had that issue with Mr. Boyer. And I think that would have been resolved quickly and immediately, and he would have been banned. And we wouldn't have had to go through that whole mess. But then, we learned from it, and working with Ms. Okerberg on the settlement agreement and how to institute remedial measures moving forward. I looked at it as we were partners. We're not just police and prosecutors here. We like to work with the industry to improve the industry whenever we can. This was a new property, and I think they needed some guidance. And with Ms. Okerberg's help, we were able to structure a plan moving forward and institute some new measures. People had to be separated from the company. Some new people had to be brought in. Obviously, a board had to be brought in that was local rather than just communicating with the folks in Malaysia. And that took place, and that's definitely a positive sign. There's no need to rehash all the stuff that took place there, but I would just say that Mr. Tan and Mr. Lim and the entire structure and the organization there, and the chairman at the time, Chairman Lim, they were very lucky to have you and Ms. Roberts and the board in place now. And I think they realize that, had this structure been in place, this organizational chart, that everything would have been copacetic. I'm glad to hear the changes you've implemented. And we see it, in the gross gaming revenue numbers, along with Fontainebleau. You're doing very well, despite what you might read in the papers. The north end of the strip is thriving. It's going to continue to thrive. It's going to do well. Mr. Moran talked to me specifically about that arena, and I hope he, as Chairman Emeritus, can continue to develop that project. He has the contacts from when he was with MGM. And I think it would be fantastic for the north end of the strip and for the entire city of Las Vegas, and the state for that matter, to have an NBA team here. And that venue could also be used for concerts and other things as well. I saw in the paper the other day that Magic Johnson met with Governor Lombardo, and he's interested in moving forward, I guess, with some type of ownership structure that would be able to bring an NBA team here. And I hope Mr. Silver is listening and watching, and we definitely will support an NBA team. Las Vegas has always been a basketball town first and foremost. And I remember the UNLV days back in the 90s, and I think we can recreate some of that enthusiasm with an NBA team here today. That would definitely help that north end of the strip. I agree with you that Circus will eventually be redeveloped, in that strip of land between Circus and Sahara Avenue along Las Vegas Boulevard is prime. It's vacant. It's right across the street from the Sahara. I see the north end of the strip really becoming just like the south end of the strip eventually. So I'm happy to hear all that. Just going to jump around a little bit real quick. You mentioned that the silo effect that was in place before you took over, and that led to some of the problems there. I look at it more like now the compliance department is the hub, more of a hub and spoke approach. So the compliance department can be the hub, and then the marketing and surveillance and floor operations and every other department can be a spoke, all leading into the compliance department, where the compliance department sort of controls the issue of AML and other compliance with vendors, et cetera, et cetera. So I like the fact that you've restructured that situation there. I'm happy to see that we now have a dream team in there, and I will call it a dream team. I can't think of anybody better than Governor Sandoval and AG Burnett and yourself and Ms. Roberts, with Ms. Okerberg's guidance as legal counsel, Ms. Detondo. It's a great team, and I have every confidence in the world that your property is going to do very, very well moving forward, especially with you basically being the main guy and running the show there. Happy to hear that you mentioned Mr. Tony Alamo Sr. He was a dear friend of mine. We used to go have lunch quite a bit and talk about Cuba and all the issues of the day. He was very politically oriented, and I'm glad to hear that you worked with him. I guess you so. If you did, I'm sure you learned a lot from Tony. He was a great, great guy. And if you wouldn't mind, I know his background, emigrated here from Cuba after the Batista fiasco. Did your father or grandfather, anybody?
My grandparents came from Cuba, yes.
Yeah, and about what year did they transition over? Was it during the Batista?
Yeah, right around the same time.
Wow, amazing.
They ended up in Tampa and Miami.
Yeah, and that's a great story, because I think a lot of young people today from Cuba and maybe other countries as well, who have escaped and sought a better life for their family and themselves, can benefit from that. That if you can make it to the United States, the potential is unlimited. You can succeed and rise to the highest levels of the corporate structure and do well for yourself, your family. And there's no greater success story than Tony Alamo Sr. and yourself. And that's just a great story. I just wanted to mention that in passing. Also, if you wouldn't mind, the chairman did hit on this, but you've implemented a lot of things since you've taken over that are positive in terms of, restructuring and reorganizing and reprioritizing responsibilities that lead directly to you and then to you through the board. So I'm not going to cover that all over again. Your resume is stellar. It's impeccable. Your experience level is beyond compare. So I agree with Chairman Dreitzer that I am more than happy to support this application, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for the kind words.
Very good. Thank you, Judge Assad. Member Sendall.
Thank you, and thank you for your affirmative presentation. And as mentioned previously, your name has been thrown around quite a bit in the last few months at our board meetings and the commission meetings, and all in good regard. So, you know, it's a great compliment to you and the hard work that you've been putting in. It is crazy to think that was just over a year ago. I joined the board at the end of January, and I'd say kind of came in the ninth inning of the Resorts World situation, and quickly had a bunch of reading material to catch myself up and participate. But to come in then, and then to see where you're at now with the implementation of the board of directors, yourself, Ms. Roberts, it's really quite, it's remarkable. And I think it says a lot too. I think Mr. Hahn mentioned, or it came up that because of this success that Resorts were Genting, I think, is looking at kind of implementing the same sort of the BOD over other locations as well, properties throughout the other portions of the country, or world too. And I don't know, but that says a lot to the success of it, and hopefully how something really positive can come out of, you know, maybe not a great time, right, situation, but there's a lot to learn when things go awry, and you address them head on and you deal with them in a positive way. And I think your leadership and the decisions made by Genting to deal with this head on, you know, Mr. Ton has done an excellent job of really addressing it fully and being fully committed, putting the resources needed to ensure that there's good people, qualified people at the top to address this moving forward. So I'm very happy with that. I mean, it's not an easy task, but I think the amount of time and effort that you put in, I did want to kind of touch a little bit more about your duties and responsibilities. You talked a lot about who, you know, you speak with Governor Sandoval regularly in the board, so kind of the upside, but I guess kind of what is like your typical week or month look like at the property level side and kind of downward? I'm not sure, but our material stated you have quite a number of direct reports. So I don't know if there's more specific people that you more maybe spend most of your time with. If you could just touch upon that and yeah, kind of what your typical week or month looks like.
Excellent. Thank you for the question. So yeah, no, it's around 21 direct reports. And I know that looks large on an organizational chart. My entire career as a chief financial officer, I've been in more of an operating CFO than, let's call it, an accounting CFO. And so I restructured the finance department when I arrived, and I created the finance department, which reports under Terry Vavra. And then I split out, let's call it analytics, under a very talented gentleman by the name of Jay Ann Sweeney. So Jay runs all of our revenue management, yield management, pricing, workforce management, enterprise analytics, planning and analysis, budgeting. So those separate functions now, right? So the finance team, in my mind, and I've been, again, doing this for a while, is very strong. And you can see that in our 3-year audit. It was a very clean audit. And so that tells me that I don't need to spend a lot of time there. I wanted to restructure it so that I could have clear lines to analytics. And I like to get all those smart people in one area. It's less structured, right? It's like a consulting firm. That's our internal McKinsey. It's our internal Bain, right? And then you have the accounting structure, which, again, very smart people, but it's hierarchical, it's structured. It's an EY. It's an accounting firm because of the levels of approval that needed. So I like to strip those out and have those. So I'm very comfortable with where our finance, and again, that's where I have a lot of knowledge. So I'm comfortable there. So that allows me then to take about the other 60% of my day, my time, and focus on the operations, because that's where we needed some heavy lifting and some help. In terms of my day, it starts, usually when I wake up before I get into the office and I look at the threads. So some of the changes we made in terms of operational is the communication is more opaque. The communication is transparent. I get threads from anything 2,050 above out of the cage, out of credit, I see. And then I see that hit the operations. So I'm on a separate thread with operations, knowing that player A goes into salon B, he's got his $500,000 line, he's got a $200,000 Tito, and he's in action. And here's what he's playing, and here are her limits. So I can follow the money throughout the day. And of course, it's 24/7, 365. So the day starts pretty early in the morning, but I can track all that happened over the night. And then I get in. And usually my Mondays are pretty clean. I like to keep Mondays open for more what's going on for the week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are a lot of meetings. I have a lot of one-on-one with my direct reports, and some of them need monthly, some of them are weekly, most of them are biweekly. So there's a regular cadence. And then I also have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are, the sales meeting on a monthly basis, the marketing meeting, the casino marketing meeting, so the departmental meeting. So I have a wider scope of people in that room, usually talking about strategy or how do we implement, what are the action items, what's coming up, right? So more tactical type of operational meetings. And then my Fridays, I like to keep clean because we're talking about what's going on for the weekend. I usually come in a little later. I spend time with the casino marketing teams because that's when they're there. They're there Friday nights and over the weekends. I do work Saturdays, but look at, this isn't work, clean 10 rooms, that's work. Sit on the line all day in the kitchen, that's work. So I feel it's an honor and a privilege what I'm able to do. So I know it sounds like a lot, but again, my entire career has been managing with the operations as much as with the finance. I came up through analytics, and so my mind works more on an analytical basis. And so I try to bring that into the decision-making process. And now it's really coaching and getting all of our operators to kind of think like that. Not analysis by paralysis, but data-driven decisions. So again, I know it sounds like a lot, and we've talked about, in fact, we talked with Gaughan yesterday about potentially doing some restructuring and adding in some areas. But again, I serve at the board's pleasure. Whatever they want to do, I will support. But I think we're in a really good place in terms of having a strong team that you can just talk strategy, and now they're implementing, and they're all talking together, which I think is the most important thing. I view this like any other like professional sports organization. The offense has to talk to the defense, has to talk to special teams, front office, and we all get together because we're going to go out and win a national championship.
That's great, and I'm glad to hear that. And I hadn't heard that perspective yet, and you kind of being the leader at the top is important because you do set the tone of communication, I think, too, right? How you communicate with underneath you, then that reflects and kind of waters down. So then, your division heads or VPs then hopefully do the same with, their subordinates, and it goes down that way. So that's wonderful. And you kind of hit on, and the judge talked a little bit about kind of the north end of the strip and maybe some larger projects. So, and it kind of, I was just thinking as you were talking and answering are you in pretty regular communication then with the other property, your other cohorts at the other properties, or is there like almost like a group, a special like strategy, long-term special events group, to the extent you can share? And I don't know what that looks like.
I've been so focused on Resorts World, I've been remiss in not reaching out to Maurice or our counterparts at Wynn. I think that would be a good exercise to just get together and talk, kumbaya.
Because you do, right? I'll have similar interests in that regard, right? An incentive
Very much
to get something going.
And they're wonderful. They're wonderful people. They're wonderful properties. Rising tides lift all boats. We want to rise the tide up at the North Strip. So I don't see any downside to that. They're, again, wonderful people.
Yeah. No, that's all great to hear, and glad to hear. You mentioned you're looking for the right person for a marketing role or head of marketing, but you do have some, at least just looking through the chart, like you have like a casino marketing person or an international marketing person, right? Is that correct?
That's on the gaming side.
That's all on the gaming side.
Yeah, that's on the gaming side. So we brought in a new head of international gaming, Greg Schulman. Ken Wong is on Greg's team in terms of heading up Far East. We have a great hire coming in for Europe, South America. Ed Ford is now over national and heading up that. He's in a player coach role. So we have new leadership there. Again, the conduit directly into Jennifer, and the communication is exponentially better. So very excited about that. It's more the property marketing. We did bring on the most amazing PR and communications team. So Susie Rue, we brought on, Alexi Leal, we brought on, and they have transformed the voice of Resorts World. So we're now month after month leading the share of voice in the market. Little old Resorts World leading the share of voice, telling our story. I was getting a little tired of other people talking about our narrative, and now we're leading that discussion and putting that out there. So very pleased with the communication department, and I've got some great people on the marketing side. So we're getting the work done. I just don't have that VP level. And look, we may not need that because the team is really coming together and working very hard, and we're very effective in our, little old resorts world, really getting out there and marketing and trying to be, smarter. I tell a lot of people there's nobody on this trip that's going to out hustle us, outwork us, or outthink us.
No, and it's resorts world. It's a whole world of its own. I will say, I mean, it's a large property as you described, right? 46 acres, I think you said, of undeveloped property. You mentioned briefly, and I don't know if you're watching yesterday, we recently revised our gaming salon regulations, and I was curious if you could just tell me a little bit about the expanse of the gaming salons you currently have and how those operate and the use and how they're used, either all privately or publicly, or to the extent you can.
Yeah, we split 66. So our high-end casino. So now the operations team has kind of split that for more mixed use, if you will.
Okay.
I was interested in the recent filing with Park MGM in terms of their, so we've been looking at that for a salon. We have a number of influencers that are looking to come in and film. So I thought that was a great idea, and the support from the board is fantastic on that angle. So
yeah, I was just curious if that's something maybe you guys already do or looking to do.
We're looking to do, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And you've already been licensed twice before as a VP, CFO, Mandalay Bay and Aria. As reiterated, you're eminently qualified. I was curious, your 6-year time, as you stated, you left MGM. Can you just tell us briefly what you did during that time, or you didn't work, but you just had a good time and traveled and played golf, or what?
I bought an RV. I traveled through the Western United States. I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time in Europe. I maxed out my visa. I spent about 3 months in Europe, going through Italy, Greece, and Spain. Visited some of the old, where the family kind of came from. So that was an incredible experience. Again, so fortunate. Spent some time in South America. So I tell people I ran with the bulls in Spain, and I walked with the turtles in Galapagos, and a lot of cool stuff in between. So again, so fortunate, all because of this industry. And I don't take that lightly. And then just traveled and played some golf and rode and hiked and spent a lot of time out in Red Rock and enjoyed life. And this industry just takes a lot out of you. It is 360. It is 24/7. And so 20 years. I think I needed a rest. I think it was optimal timing. So yeah, it was good to refresh and re-energize the battery.
Well, I'm glad you it sounds like you reached out or knew there was an opening. So this was something that interested you getting into Resorts World then.
Yeah, through the 6 years I had talked to people, but it never felt right. I wasn't going to go back into one of the large organizations. So this allowed me enough autonomy to make decisions and then see them happen and build a team and test the strategies that you've always thought would be best. And again, with Mr. Murn at the helm, and I know he's transitioned off, but the board coming in, really kind of solidified the decision. And then I spent a couple hours with Cole Haan, and once you spend a couple hours with Cole Haan, it's pretty easy to join his team.
Yeah.
And with Chairman, I was able to spend a day with Chairman when he came out, hearing the history of the company and his vision for Resorts World. It was amazing. So I know I made the right choice.
Well, I'm very happy for you. And I think, as I stated before, Resorts World is lucky to have you at the helm leading the way, and look forward to hearing your continued success and growth at Resorts World, and happy to support your application, and good luck. I don't have anything further, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Sendall. With that, I think we are ready for a motion.
Yes, Chairman Dreutzer, I move to recommend approval of non-restricted agenda item number 15 as read into the record by Madam Secretary Rupert.
Thank you very much, Member Sendall. Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Sendall?
Aye.
Chairman Dreutzer?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very good. With that, Madam Secretary, please read into the record non-restricted item number 16.
Non-restricted number 16 are the applications of Excel Entertainment, Inc. for amendment to order of registration and to pledge membership interest as noted on the agenda. It is also the applications of Excel Entertainment LLC and Century Gaming, Inc. to pledge equity securities as noted on the agenda.
Very good. Thank you.
Good morning again, Chair Dreutzer, Member Assad, Member Sendall, Madam Secretary. For the record, I am Erica Okerberg. I am Nevada Gaming Counsel to Excel Entertainment. Here with me today from the company, I have the Chief Accounting Officer, Christy Kozlik. I also have the Chief Compliance Officer in the audience, Derek Harmer. We're before you today in connection with a request for approval for equity pledges. Excel entered into a refinancing of its prior financing package in 2025, and in connection therewith has requested equity pledges for several entities, and here, of course, for the Nevada-approved entities. I would like to ask Ms. Kozlik to provide an overview of the financing and to speak with you a little bit about how the company is doing, if that's acceptable.
Very good. Thank you very much. Good
Thank you.
morning.
Good morning,
Please proceed.
Chair Dreitzer, Member Assad, and Member Sadal. I'm Christy Kozlik. It's a pleasure to meet you. As Ms. Orkenberg stated, we entered into a new credit facility in September 2025. This includes $600 million of term loan and $300 million revolver. The proceeds were used to repay and terminate all outstanding commitments under our prior credit agreement. We entered the facility with the intent to strengthen our balance sheet, enhance liquidity, and lower our cost of capital to support our disciplined growth and while extending our maturities to 2030. And now I'd like to provide a brief update on our finances. We reported record fourth quarter 2025 results, including a 7.5% increase in revenue to $341 million, and full year 2025 revenue of $1.3 billion, an increase of 8.1%. And our full year 2025 net income was $51 million, an increase of 45.3% compared to year-end 2024. We also had record adjusted EBITDA of $56 million for fourth quarter 2025, an increase of 18.9% compared to fourth quarter of 2024. And record adjusted EBITDA of $210 million for year-end 2025, an increase of 11.1% compared to year-end 2024. We had cash and cash equivalents of $297 million and net debt of approximately $311 million as of December 31st, 2025, reflecting our continued strong financial position. As to the company generally, Excel delivered a strong finish to 2025. We closed the year with record financial results, continued operating momentum, new growth, and an enhanced balance sheet. These results reflect the resiliency of our distributed gaming model, growth from our new acquisitions, our disciplined operating measures, and our capital deployment. We are excited, and we are closely monitoring developments in Chicago following public announcements regarding the introduction of video gaming terminals and licensed establishments, which the city noted could result in approximately 2,500 new locations over the long term. At Fairmont Park Casino and Racing, also in Illinois, we completed our first racing season and ramped up casino operations in April 2025. Our customer engagement has been healthy, and our monthly performance has continued to build as customer awareness increases. In Nevada, our terminal count increased 13% year over year in the fourth quarter of 2025, supported by our recent route acquisitions and expansions. During the quarter, we completed an accretive acquisition of Dynasty Games, which added 20 locations and approximately 120 games in Northern Nevada. And during the quarter, we also entered into a new route partnership with Rebel Convenience Stores, which added 55 locations and 424 gaming machines across Southern Nevada starting in January of this year. We leveraged our deep capabilities across national teams to accomplish this arduous deployment in only 6 days. This represents our significant Nevada transactions in only a couple of months and further strengthens our route density and scale in the state. As with Dynasty, we expect to leverage our operating expertise, our analytic platform, and our loyalty program to enhance performance and drive incremental growth over time. I thank you for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ms. Okerberg and Ms. Kozlik. We appreciate the affirmative presentation, and it answered many of my questions, but essentially this is a straight refinance.
Correct.
Yeah. So that the materials were straightforward, and so I appreciate that. I did, since you're here, want to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I guess first, there was a succession plan that was announced. Could you give a little bit of color to that and the reasons why and what that looks like, please?
Yeah, that was just recently announced. So Andy Rubenstein, who started Excel Entertainment, is going to be moving on to become president and chairman of the board. And then Mark Phelan, who has been our president of U.S. Gaming Operations, is going to move. He's moved into the chief operating officer position and will become our CEO in August of this year. This has been a longer-term transition plan to continue the growth of the company. So started in 2009. In 2012 is when the distributed gaming really went live in Illinois. So the company essentially started from nothing and became a billion-dollar company. We continue to grow through acquisition, through growth, and we want to continue doing that. So Mark Phelan has really been leading a lot of our acquisitions and our growth planning. And so this has just been a long-term plan to allow Mark to step into this position and Andy to continue with the visionary growth that he's had for the company. So this is just to allow the company to continue to grow, develop, and take distributed gaming to the next level. So it really is just a strategic move for the company and one that I think is going to be very successful for us.
Very good. I appreciate that. You talked about Dynasty in Nevada and your growth in Nevada.
Yep.
Could you talk a little bit more about that? How many employees do you have in Nevada and maybe your plans for Nevada?
In Nevada, so I think, I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but a couple hundred employees. And we are continued to invest in Nevada. It's been a really great market for us. I don't have anything to talk publicly about, but we do have plans to continue to scale and grow in this market. And I would actually like to thank the board on the investigators, the agents, the Dynasty acquisition, the Rebel convenience store acquisition has gone exceptionally well. And I think it's because of the support you guys have given us in this market to really look at these acquisitions, look at this model and see what we can do. The distributed model in Nevada is very interesting in how it works. The density here in Las Vegas and then Reno and Elko is where we have a lot of our operations as well. And I don't think we'd be as successful as we were without your support. So we are looking to continue to grow and develop here in the Nevada area.
Thank you for that. How are you looking at the opportunities in Chicago? Obviously, it's your backyard.
Yes.
I'm sure you've been looking forward to this for some time. But what's the timetable? How big can this get for you? What's the size of the opportunity?
Yeah, so Illinois itself is about $3 billion just without Chicago. They're looking to, we estimate about 2,500 locations could open up in the Chicago proper area. Right now, it's still, they opened up to take licenses now, so applications are being put in. The Illinois Gaming Board then has to approve them. So I think it'll be still a runway of a couple of months before they start going live. Then we obviously have to put everything in, get the operations set up. So the target market is, you know, we have operations in Burr Ridge, Wheeling, Tinley Park, those areas. So we're going to look to kind of centralize in the areas where we already have operations and then scale from there. So right now we're very much going down a path of just kind of going through the sales, looking at the footprint, looking where we want to go, but it is looking to be about 2,500 terminals. Of that, we have about a third of the market share in the Chicagoland area. So we're looking to kind of target to grow and scale from there.
Very good. And then just succinctly, the time frame on that? I think
it starts, I think, go live towards the fourth quarter is when we could start to see locations open up and then going into 2027.
So it's more of a 27 event
Yeah.
to capture that part of the market.
Correct.
All right. And then this question, unfortunately, I may need to ask Mr. Harmer to join you in this answer. Good morning, Mr. Harmer.
Morning, Mr. Chairman.
With respect to distributed gaming, certainly tremendous opportunities. There's been a lot of growth, but also there's a lot of gray markets that exist alongside the markets that you're in.
Yes.
How are you looking at that in terms of the opportunities? There's plenty of opportunity in gray market, but obviously you have a lot at stake and not enough licenses. So talk about your view on that. And obviously it pertains to the culture compliance question as well.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Member Assad and Member Sandal. Nice to see you again. And thanks for the opportunity to address you today. You know, certainly gray markets are something that we are always concerned about. When we go into a new market, we like to make sure, first of all, that it is a regulated market and it is legal, right? And so there are markets that we are in where other operators may have taken the opportunity to pass on moving into that marketplace, but we have, through our compliance committee and our own investigation, decided that there are some markets that, skill markets, if you will, that are properly regulated by the state, whether it's Nevada, whether it's Nebraska's Department of Revenue, or whether it's the Georgia Lottery Commission that regulates skill gaming and COAMs in Georgia. They're all legal, they're all regulated. We find them to be properly done so in that regard. And so our compliance committee reviews any new markets that we go into. We'll have a white paper done by competent counsel in that jurisdiction. We'll present that to our compliance committee, and it certainly is something that's core to our business, that we don't just haphazardly wander new markets and say, hey, there's a great opportunity, let's go chase something. It's a very deliberate, intentional process to ensure that we're going into markets that are properly regulated, that are legalized, that fit within our company's culture.
And do you see, looking out, there must be a dynamic situation relative to legality and regulation. Markets are always changing. So do you see any number of other markets that perhaps you're not in now, but maybe over the course of the next several quarters could evolve towards a standard of regulation that would be acceptable?
Yeah, I think so. One that comes to mind is Wyoming. And we peaked at Wyoming for a while now. Wyoming has a skill games market now that's regulated. And so there are markets out there that are continuing to evolve. Skill games continue to evolve and become more a part of the landscape of gaming, along with HHR and other sort of variants of gaming. So we continue to monitor those. But for us, we're fairly traditional in what we decide to where we decide to operate. We're not going to take on anything on the margins. It's just not within our culture of compliance. And so as new markets develop and as new opportunities for gaming continue to arise, we'll certainly be always looking at them and making sure that first, they fit within our culture of compliance. Second, the opportunity is something that makes sense to the organization.
So, just
Please.
to answer the question. So we continually monitor the environment. And I think there are states that continually look at potentially putting regulation in place to make distributed gaming legal. If that were to happen, we would absolutely want to take advantage of that. But where the markets stay gray, we just don't want to touch it. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, our licenses are most important to us. It is the foundation of our operations, and we wouldn't want to jeopardize that for anything. But just, last year in 2024, a year and a half ago now in 2024, we entered Louisiana, which is a regulated market. And that seemed like a great opportunity for us. And so we did go in by acquiring Toucan Gaming. That seemed like a great market to enter into. If other ones were to open up that made sense, we would definitely go into those markets.
How do you certainly appreciate that answer? And I think it was good to get on the record. How do you impart that on your staff? You're all over the place, and frankly, in states that, of course, have less gaming than Nevada, less understanding of gaming. So how do you impart the importance of that to people who just want to get going in Wyoming or wherever?
Yeah, so that wouldn't be possible in an organization the way it's structured today. So compliance culture is something that we talk about regularly. In fact, we just had our latest town hall meeting, and we have a compliance check-in as a module as part of our town hall meetings. We talk about the compliance for the organization, the compliance plan. We have training throughout the year that so folks understand and are very cognizant of. Hey, if we're going to do something, we need to make sure compliance and regulatory are folded in first. And so it would be very difficult for someone to sort of get going in a new market without myself, my team, and other members of our executive staff to be able to not have an opinion on it, or not be able to say, hey, let's route this to our compliance committee. Let's take a look at this and see if this is something that we should be entertaining or not. It'd be our training is consistent. Our training is predictable, and the businesses that we choose to align ourselves with, partners that we choose to take on, and jurisdictions in which we choose to operate must meet the highest standards for us to want to go in there.
I appreciate that. I wasn't going to let you travel all this way without writing in, Mr. Harmer. So thank you for that. I appreciate those points, and I certainly recognize that you have a compliance first culture. I have great confidence in the team in that regard, and appreciate your thoughtful presentation on that. And I'm happy to support the application. Very good. Member Sendall.
Thank you. Yeah, your affirmative presentation, Ms. Kozlik, addressed a lot of my questions, and the chairman asked a lot of the things I was going to ask. But I guess just to maybe a little bit more to expand on and talk about is, you currently operate in about, is it 10 states? I think I counted. Yeah, in the US, and you don't have any international operations at all. And have you ever considered that, or is that anything the company?
So again, just like we talked about the other states, I would say we don't take anything off the table, but we're thoughtful about where we want to go. Expanding internationally obviously adds a lot of complexity to your operations. So it is something we look at, but it's not something we're currently looking at right now.
Okay.
But yeah, we are in 10 states, and I would say some of them aren't really distributed. So we do sell to like West Virginia and South Dakota, but that's more from our manufacturing side. We have Grand Vision Gaming, that's out of Montana, and they actually develop cabinets, and we sell to those states versus actually being a distributed operator in those states.
Got it. Yeah, I found it's very interesting that the services and products you specifically provide, if I understand this correctly, and it's like gaming terminals, equipment maintenance, and software support. Is that essentially the main aim of your business?
Yeah, in addition to the operations, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And Member Sendall recently added Fairmont Park as a Racino within our operations as of last year. So we're really starting to sort of broaden our base of what we believe is sort of the locals gaming market, not just an SRO, but also sort of tangential, or let's call it adjacent markets to gaming, that we think fits well within our ethos, and sort of gives us an opportunity to sort of be a leader in markets that probably 10 years ago we hadn't even thought about, but as we continue to expand our platform, seem very logical and make a lot of sense to us.
That's great. So just to piggyback on the proposed transaction here, I know Ms. Kozlik, you went through it. Can you just briefly explain to me what you intend to do with the proceeds? And my understanding is perhaps maybe first step is to repay the old and then.
Yeah, so we use the 600 million term loan to basically pay off our previous debts that were outstanding and our loans that were outstanding, and we'll continue to pay off that through our principal payments over time. And then the 300 million revolver really just gives us that flexibility out there to do, like I said, we're inquisitive out there. If there are acquisitions, we want to have that flexibility to be able to go out into the market and do what we want to do. And so that's what that 300 million revolver really gives us the flexibility. Before it was 150 million. So doubling that really gave us additional, power to go out and do what we want to do. We're also, with the markets, were a lot more favorable this time when we redid the credit facility. So it really took our interest rates down, taking advantage of that. So it just gave us a lot more flexibility with our capital to take advantage of things as they come along. So it really was to make that balance sheet just stronger, a little bit more nimble, to let us jump and react if we want to.
I know, sounds like a good move, and I appreciate the explanation. I don't have any other questions. I'm happy to support the applications and wish you best of luck with the Racino as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Judge Assad.
Thank you, Chairman Dreitzer. Mr. Hammer, good to see you again. Ms. Kozlik, nice to meet you for the first time.
Thank you.
It's a very straightforward, just a refi. Agent Park did a really good job of putting the application together. I don't have any particular questions. I'm in full support of the application. I was just curious if you might touch upon the financial outlook. The market cap's about 995 million. Earnings per share is about 50 cents a share. Is that because you're over leveraged a little bit, or you plan on doing some more acquisitions, or is there a plan to improve the earnings per share moving forward?
Yeah, so the earnings per share at year end was for a diluted EPS was 60 cents at the end of the year. We are focused on continuing to build our balance sheet health. We have a share buyback program that's been backed by the board. We continue to have strong EPS growth, and we're focused on our expense management going into 2026. So we are kind of targeted to kind of keep growing that EPS, continue to take down that debt. So we kind of have, like, if you look at all the different levers as a company, we're focused on all of them, right? So can we be successful at all of them? I would say, sure, why not? But yes, we are trying to take that EPS up, continue to strengthen our balance sheet, and then continue to growth. But as we were talking about, having that revolver, so if we see that acquisition to kind of help continue to grow our footprint, grow the company, then we have that ability and that flexibility to do that too, to continue to grow as a company.
Great. And I know you touched upon the EBITDA for 2025 was 210 million.
Yes,
Up
210.
from the
And that was our
prior year.
highest ever.
And the cash flow is looking good.
Yes, cash flow is always healthy, which is nice as well.
Very good. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Jim.
Very good. Looks like the trends are well. So with that, we'll accept a motion.
Great. Chairman Dreitzer, I move to recommend approval of non-restricted agenda item number 16 as read into the record by Madam Secretary Rupert pursuant to the second revised order of registration draft number 1 dated December 15th, 2025.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Sandal?
Aye.
Chairman Dreitzer?
Aye. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will turn to non-restricted item number 17.
Non-restricted number 17 is the application of Cheryl Condra for finding of suitability as a director at Excel Entertainment, Inc. I believe we have a recusal on this item.
Madam Secretary Rupert, on non-restricted agenda item number 17, I am disclosing the fact that I worked in the internal audit department at Caesars Entertainment from 2008 until 2011. During that time, the applicant, Ms. Condra, served as the Vice President and Chief Audit Executive for Caesars Entertainment. In 2011, I left Caesars shortly after the occurrence of a workplace matter that included the involvement of myself and Ms. Condra. This has caused a conflict for me such that the independence of judgment of a reasonable person would be materially affected. And as a result, I do not intend to participate.
Very good. Thank you, Member Sandal. Ms. Okerberg, please proceed.
Thank you. One moment, please.
Very good. Great. Yeah, 16 got done a little quick. So here we
Yes.
are. No worries.
Thank you very
Please
much.
proceed.
Good morning, Chair Dreitzer, Member Assad, Madam Secretary. For the record, I am Erica Okerberg. I'm Nevada Gaming Counsel to Excel Entertainment. Here with me today to my right is the applicant Cheryl Condra. She has previously appeared before the board and commission, but not before this board. So she is going to share with you a little bit about her background and talk with you about her responsibilities in connection with Excel.
Very good. Thank you very much. Good morning, Ms. Condra. Just the button.
All right, there we go. Good morning, Chairman Dreitzer and Member Assad. I'm Cheryl Condra. I think you can see from my background, I spent 30 years in the gaming industry, starting up in the Lake Tahoe, Reno area where I was raised, worked for Flory Armstrong, did public accounting and gaming, then went on to work for Harris, moved to Memphis, took on the riverboat division, and then was asked to come back in 2000 with Caesars Entertainment, where I was the CAE from 2007 to 2014. Left in 2014 to work for Pinnacle Entertainment, would probably still be there, but due to the Penn buyout, chose to move on to Resorts World, where I spent most of my time in New York. We weren't open here yet in Las Vegas, so I was doing 2 New York audit oversight and then Bimini in the Bahamas. And then January 2020, decided to move to Nashville, Tennessee, where I oversee internal audit for Tractor Supply Company. We have 2,400 stores across the United States, and we support the rural out here lifestyle. As you know, I also sit on the board of Galaxy Gaming. I'm the audit committee chair and sit on the compliance committee as well. I joined Excel last April and then became the audit committee chair in June of 25. I oversee external audit, internal audit, work with the CFO, work with Christy, who you just recently met. We meet monthly, we look at the financial statements, and then we prep for all of the audit committee meetings as well. And I do sit on the comp committee for Excel. So I do appreciate the agent's review. He was very good at getting back to me, and it was a very smooth process going through this with him. And with that, if you have any questions about my gaming or current retail experience, I'm here to answer those questions.
Very good. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Condra, and many of my questions were answered in the presentation and then the rump session. Having been internal to a company certainly for a long time, and now you're external, other than that, obviously it's a different seat. Do you approach those roles differently, and if so, how?
I'd say very differently. I think it's staying at that governance, more mentoring level versus really getting into giving direction on how to do things, right? I think we can give opinions and our thoughts, but at the end of the day, it's management to make final decisions, whether it's employee changes, or certain markets. We obviously give our input at Excel where we see might have the best ROI, but it is just that governance. And I've had to kind of step that back a bit with Galaxy as well, working with Emily Wynn. And it is a different role, but it is more of a governance and mentoring versus that day-to-day management style.
Understood. And which do you like better? Or is that hard to say?
I do like Tractor Supply Company. I got to say, Nashville, Tennessee has been great to me and my family. But no, I do like gaming. It's nice after spending 25 years in gaming that I'm still able to offer up my knowledge and work with Mark Liparelli and others to, keep that going, because it's a little bit hard to transfer that over to Tractor Supply.
Sure.
Although audit works well, it's a little difficult on retail versus gaming, but I do enjoy both.
Very good. Question about compliance and culture of compliance, maybe in both your roles. How do you view your role as the board member and involved with audit? How does that overlap with culture of compliance?
I think it definitely comes up when we talk about Sarbanes-Oxley or issues that might be coming up in the various audits that are done, IT system testing, what we're finding in those areas. I think that definitely has to tie over with compliance. We hear the readout from Derek each quarter on where we're at, and Emily as well. But I do think it definitely laps on the compliance and then the actual testing that's done by the internal audit and the external audit function as well.
Last question. So what's your relationship? How does it work functionally between you and the external auditors? What does that process look like?
Well, we've just recently switched over to Deloitte from KPMG. So I've been meeting with the partner who's located here in Vegas on a monthly basis. And then quarterly, we will meet prior to our audit committee meetings, go through the deck, make sure we're all comfortable with the financial statements. And then both will be presenting, they'll be presenting at the actual audit committee, but it'll start as probably a monthly meeting and then we'll hit to a quarterly meeting once Deloitte gets kind of into that cadence with Excel.
Yeah, it's always a heavy lift to change accounts, is it not?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Very good. Well, I appreciate it. And I have no questions about your background. Obviously, you have extensive history in gaming and now in tractors. And so I can't say anything negative about that. I definitely think you're a credit to the role, and Excel's happy and lucky to have you. So I'm happy to support your application.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Judge Saad.
Thank you, Chairman Dreitzer. Thank you for being here. Nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you.
So is Franklin, Tennessee near Nashville?
It is. We're about 15 miles south of Nashville, in
okay.
the suburbs of Tennessee. Green. Yeah, beautiful area.
It's booming explosion population wise in Nashville from what
Yes, they will tell you a lot of people from California and Nevada are coming in. Yeah, it has really, the last 5 years of being there, we've really seen a lot of growth.
Is there no state income tax?
There's no state income tax.
That might be one reason why.
Yeah, it does help for sure.
And then is there, what kind of gaming do they have? They moving into the area of legalizing gaming, or is there any gaming legalizing?
No, there is not. Up in Kentucky, there's racetracks in Kentucky with slot machines. Tennessee being very conservative. We did get online sports betting right after we moved there, but that is about it.
You have online sports betting in Tennessee?
We do. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a start.
I think that might be the start and the end. But yeah, Tennessee does not have any other gaming, but Kentucky does. And then we have Illinois.
Well, maybe you could move in that direction. Open up a new market.
Never say never.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, Agent Robertson did a great job. It's very straightforward. There were no areas of concern. And like Chairman Dreitzer, I'm happy to support the application. It's just on for a suitability finding for you as to be chair of the audit committee. So I'm in full support of the application also.
Thank you.
Very good. With that, I believe, Judge, we're informed for a motion.
Yes, with respect to non-restricted number 17, I move to recommend approval of non-restricted number 17 as read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Judge. Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Chairman Dreitzer?
Aye. Passes. Congratulations. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very good. With this, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Okay, we're going to start here in a moment. Ms. Zuckerberg, you can leave. You were here enough. Okay. Well, stay as long as you like. Of course. All right. We're going to get started here in another minute. Well, very good then. We are back on the record. Madam Secretary, please read into the record non-restricted number 18.
Non-restricted number 18 is the application of Kennedy Putman for licensure as a key employee at Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc.
Very good. Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning, Chairman Dreitzer, Judge Assad, Member Sindall, Madam Secretary. For the record, my name is Cannon Smith, and I'm General Counsel for Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc. With me on my right is the applicant, Kennedy Putman, and to my left is NRSI's President, Paula Graziano. We're before you today on non-restricted item number 18, which is Ms. Putman's application for licensure as a key employee. We'd like to thank Agent Timon, Special Agent Peters, Supervisor Barbie for their work on this application. Additionally, NRSI would like to thank Agent Spurlock for his work on our restricted application that was on the consent agenda yesterday. If it pleases the board, Ms. Putman would like to tell you about herself and then answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Good morning, Ms. Putnam.
Good morning. And thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Kennedy Putman, and I am proud to be a second-generation Las Vegas native. Growing up in the city has given me a deep appreciation for the community, the industry, and the people who make Las Vegas what it is. When I was 17, I became a teenage mother, which forced me to grow up quickly and motivated me to work hard for a better future. I left high school, but later earned my GED and put myself through beauty school while raising my children. Balancing school and motherhood taught me determination, responsibility, and perseverance. Like many people, my journey hasn't been perfect. Along the way, I have faced one of the hardest struggles of my life, addiction. It's not something I'm proud of, but has shaped who I am today. Throughout that time, I've remained committed to my responsibilities and to maintaining professionalism in the workplace. My personal struggles never affected the standards I held myself to or the quality of my work. I have been clean and sober since April 15th, 2023, and I remain committed to continuing that growth every day. Almost 9 years ago, I was given the opportunity to work at Dottie's. What began as just a job quickly became much more. Over the years, it has become a place where I have grown in confidence and built meaningful relationships. The connections I have made with colleagues and patrons have turned into friendships I truly value. I am very grateful for the opportunities I have been given and for the chance to continue growing within the company. I would also like to address my past tax matter. I take full responsibility for signing my taxes without reviewing them with the level of detail I should have. I have learned from that mistake, and it is something that will not happen again. Looking back, every challenge I have faced has helped shape the person I am today. My past does not define me, but has given me strength, perspective, and compassion. I am proud of how far I've come and grateful for the opportunities I have been given. I take the responsibility of this license very seriously, and I would be honored to continue growing in my career and contributing positively to the industry. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Well, thank you for being here today, Ms. Putnam. We understand that this isn't an easy circumstance to be here and sit in this room in front of microphones and talk to us on this big podium in front of the public and to talk about your background and your history. We know that that's a difficult thing to do. So we appreciate, and I personally appreciate your courage in coming here and sharing your story with us as part of this application process. So let me start there. With respect to your career progression, it's quite admirable where you've come to. Can you talk a little bit about your role? You have a fair amount of responsibilities and a significant number of direct reports. Can you talk about how you're able to manage it all across all of those stores?
So I currently oversee 49 locations. I have 5 store managers who directly report to me. They manage their assistant managers, and it is based off of needs and emergencies of how I go about my day. You know, what is needing my attention right now and what can be addressed at a later date, or how far up it moves up my to-do list. I've open communication with my store managers all throughout, 24/7. We are always communicating with each other, whether that is through email or on the phone or through text message, to make sure that we are taking care of everything that needs to be taken care of and addressing matters accordingly.
Could you maybe give a little more detail about what your days look like? How do you plan your week? Again, because that's a pretty significant amount of responsibility over a large number of places.
I don't have a set schedule as far as where I'm going to go or where I'm going to be every day. I try to change it up and go to different locations throughout the time, and check on them, interact with the bartenders and the assistant managers, and be available to everyone. I make it a point to visit at least every location every quarter to make sure that they can see me and that they know that I am visible and available, but I don't have a set schedule, I would say, of locations I'm going to or where I'm at.
Okay. That's I appreciate that. In terms of your professional growth, when did you sort of first realize that this is something that you would be good at, that you could succeed at? Obviously, the company has a tremendous amount of faith in you with this role. So what was that growth process like for you, recognizing, hey, I can do this and I can be successful here?
So off the record a little bit, I come from a family of 6 kids, but I am the third and I am the oldest daughter. So I'm naturally bossy, right? And I like to tell other people what to do and kind of run things naturally. That's just kind of my nature. I am a very outspoken person. I started out as a bartender and I covered shifts, extra shifts. We call it a floater, extra board, and covered shifts, and then kind of sat around for a while. And then my store manager at the time said to me, would you like to be an assistant? And I said, I never thought about it. Sure. And then I just moved up and I was an assistant for a little while. And then I became a store manager and started out with 4 locations, and then got 5 locations, and then 7, and then 9, and then finally maxed out at the 10 locations. And I enjoyed that. I enjoy leading by example and working with a team for the betterment of everyone. I always tell all the people, I will never ask you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. So if the parking lot needs to be swept, I will go out there still now to this day and go out and help clean up the parking lot. Or if there's a customer there and the bartender's not there, to help get a drink or fill in wherever is necessary to be part of a team.
That is, I appreciate that answer. And I also commend you that, next month you'll be celebrating 3 years of sobriety.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that is a great, by all accounts, a great landmark, a moment, and something to be celebrated and congratulated. So, but the question I would have around that, as I'm sure you can appreciate, you have a lot of stress in the sense of a big job. I'm sure, as we all do, you have personal things that you deal with. Tell me about your support system around you, personally, professionally, that, it takes all of us, right? So tell me about that, because, 3 years is great, but it's also, in the scheme of things, relatively new. So how are you looking at your support system to be able to continue to succeed as you've been succeeding?
Yes. I went to therapy for a while and did extensive therapy to work through some issues that I had been having, to deal with things in a more manageable way. I have other people in my life who are also part of the recovery community. So I have other people I can rely on and communicate with. I have never shied away from that fact, and open and honest with the people that I work with and my colleagues of what I have been through. I have a very strong support system from my family. I have 3 daughters who are everything to me, and I never want to disappoint them ever again.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I guess maybe let's turn to, I'm sorry, tell me your name again.
Paula Graziano.
Paula Graziano.
Yes.
Yes. So we appreciate you being your president.
Yes.
Yes. And so maybe you could speak to Ms. Putnam, and obviously you have tremendous belief in her, given the fact that she's in this job of tremendous responsibility and importance in your company. Maybe you can talk a little bit about her growth and then what you see for her in this role.
Yes, I'm happy to. I'm happy to support her application. And she has been with us for almost 10 years, but 9 years, as she stated. It started out as a bartender, worked her way up as assistant manager and became a manager. And I had recently been in one of her locations, and a bartender pulled me aside. This was in January, and she said to me, "Hey, Paula, I wanted to let you know I've been a bartender for 10 years and I just love Kennedy. She's the best manager I've had. She's very organized. She's very detailed, and she always answers her phone." And, my experience with Kennedy, I think I met her about 4 years ago, and I was working on a non-gaming retail project, and I sent out a message, please help me on this project. And she was definitely one person that came and did her assignment with little guidance and got it across the board so I could get this done. And just recently, this week, I went to one of a coworker of hers, a manager who's been with Dottie's for 18 years. And I said, "Oh, give me the pros and cons of working with Kennedy." And he said, "She always goes above and beyond. And actually today she's coming out to help me with a couple of things I need help on." So it's very consistent, the message. She's reliable, she's detail oriented, she holds people accountable, and she's not afraid to say anything. We appreciate her feedback on stuff, and I'm very lucky to have her part of my team. And I thank you for your consideration on her application too.
Very good. I guess as to the tax matter, I appreciate what you said. And I assume that at this moment going forward, all tax obligations you have at any level with any state or otherwise have all been addressed.
Correct.
Yep. And then with respect to your situation, you had individuals in your life in the past who, as we all do, weren't good for you, right? So it's safe to say those are all individuals who are no longer in your life, whoever
Absolutely.
they may be. Yeah. All right. One last point. There was a statement that you provided where you talked about a period of time that maybe things weren't going so well, but you said, "I could manage use for a while, and then ultimately I couldn't." Talk about that, because, of course, sobriety contemplates no use at all. So I just want to make sure that, you discuss with us, what you were saying there and how you see your sobriety going forward.
My sobriety going forward is 100% abstinence. I do not drink. I do not do anything. I do not partake of anything of that nature that would alter my mind in any way. Before, I would kind of partake occasionally, and that's how it happened. And then that ultimately did not serve me well. And I have made that decision of going forward. And at this point in my life, that is not an option for me. And I am 100% clean and sober.
And that's what I was getting at, that there's really, with these sorts of things, there's no middle ground
No,
per se, but it looks
It's all
like
or
you-
nothing.
Yeah, it looks like you definitely have reached that point. So
Absolutely.
So I'll say this. So first of all, as I said, where we started, this is really hard to do, right? To be able to have to sit in front of this group in public and discuss your life like this. So I appreciate that you've been able to do a very difficult thing here. You next month, I think, again, great milestone. You'll be celebrating your 3rd year of sobriety, but that's a relatively short amount of time, which we expect and hope will continue, because there's no question that you're a success story. And that's how I see it. And, we root for success stories, and we want success stories to participate not only in, as people in our community, but also within the gaming community. So definitely want to say that I support that. But, there's a natural question around what it looks like going forward with all the stresses in your life and all the responsibilities you have. But from the discussion we've had here today, especially with Ms. Graziano here, for lack of a better term, vouching for you and explaining, how valuable you are to the team. And that, along with the other things you've said, it definitely seems like you have a good support system around you to be able to continue your success forward. And so, as I think is understandable, there is some concern, right? We're concerned, as I'm sure, makes sense relative to the go forward, because it's only been 3 years. But, given where you are and your level of determination, and the fact that you have this great job and the fact that you're doing so well at it, I applaud that, I support it, and we want to see that continue. So, I would like to see 3 become 10, become 30.
Me too.
Yeah. And I have every expectation with the grit and determination, coupled with the lessons you learned along the way, which you've discussed here today, and with support from great people like Ms. Graziano and others, that you will get there. So I will absolutely support your application today, and support your story and your advancement in your career moving forward. But I appreciate very much, again, what you've said here today, and look forward to seeing you down the road in more and more increased areas of responsibility. So keep it up. We're rooting for you and supporting you as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Sutton.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Dreitzer. He asked all my questions.
Sorry.
He didn't leave me very much, but they were all great questions, all the questions I would have asked, and your answers were great. I would like to commend Ms. Graziano and Dottie's for hanging in there with you and giving you this opportunity. A lot of companies would have simply said, we're going to move in another direction because we just can't take the risk. And it is a risk. So, and I commend you for being here and speaking candidly about it, and for your success. You're a survivor. You're and doing a great job recovery-wise. I want to see you succeed, and I'm rooting for you. And by the way, I have a note here. You love your dog. What kind of a dog do you have?
I do love my dog.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have 4 dogs, but I have 2, I know, 2 French bulldogs, Stella and Shiloh. Hey guys. That my Shiloh, I call her my soul dog. Right.
Okay.
I got her right after I committed back to sobriety, and she has been with me right along the way. And
nice.
I explain it as, if I'm eating a sandwich and I give my kid a bite and they're like, I don't want that bite, right? My dog is just grateful. She doesn't care if I give her the crust, right?
Right,
She's
right.
just so happy. She is my joy.
And the other 2?
Cooper and Cody, and they are mutts, and they put up with the Frenchies. They don't really like them all of the time.
Yeah, Frenchies can be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very familiar with Frenchies. My daughter's got 2, and they're wild.
Yeah.
But anyways, congratulations on handling the tax problem. Keep that under control, make those payments. As far as, I oversaw a drug program for 6 years when I was on the bench, and relapsing, I expected that to be part of the process. So, I was very tolerant and worked with my I call them my patients, but my folks that were in the program whenever they would relapse. And sometimes, you get these triggers, like the chairman indicated, stressors that, can pop up. And so do you have a sponsor or someone you can reach out to help deal with if you get a trigger or something that
Yes,
throws you
I
a
have other
curveball?
people in recovery. I am at the point that isn't even an option for me,
Mhm.
right? I don't think about it in that aspect, and that is not something to play out for me. That I had a little bit of time of sobriety and got to know how great life was, and then my life started to go down, and I realized that I can't continue on this path because I know how great life can be when you are living the right way.
Yeah, true. And then the drug of choice was OxyContin mostly?
Correct.
Yeah, that's like 10 times more addicting than heroin.
Yeah.
That's a really tough drug to kick. So, I commend you for that. And I just want you to be aware that there may be a trigger or stressor coming down the road, and don't hesitate to reach out to that sponsor, and Mr. Smith and Ms. Graziano, they're also part of your support network. And don't forget about the 3 daughters, So, I mean, all that hopefully will keep you on the right track. And it's important, I found with the people that were in my program, that they had a balance in their life between, family, fun, and work. So do you have things you'd like to do for fun for yourself?
I do. I'm a arts and crafts kind of person. I like to decorate. I like to refinish furniture. Stuff like that.
Yeah, you gotta have, things besides work and family, and, you gotta have some fun in your life too. It's very important. So, and Mr. Smith, always good to see you as well. So I too am in support of this application. And again, I want to commend you guys for hanging in there with her and giving her this opportunity. So that's really, it's great on your part. And I wish more employers would take that position in life. So thank you, Chairman.
Very good. Thank you very much, Judge. Member Sendall.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I just wanted to touch upon a few things, and I 100% agree. It's good to do things outside of work. And I was going to similarly ask kind of, what do you do to relieve stress? Having other alternatives, whether it's crafts or hobbies, and you have your 4 dogs and your family, that's a great support system. And that's important. Let me start. I just want to ask you a few more questions just about your background first, and we'll go from there. But you mentioned you started as a hairstylist, but back in 2015, what first brought you to work at Dottie's?
I ran into my old boss who gave me my very first job, and she worked at Dottie's.
Oh.
And she was an assistant manager at Dottie's, and she said, "You would be so great. You should come work at Dottie's." And she actually gave me my first job. I worked at Blockbuster, and I used to do the training for all of the new hires within the Las Vegas Valley. And so she's the one who, I didn't even know what a Dottie's was. I had never even been in one. And so she brought me on, and I started as a bartender, and that's how it started. Just fate running into her that one day, and I hadn't seen her in years.
Yeah, I'm always curious on when people switch kind of careers, really. I mean, it sounds like you didn't seem like you worked as a bartender before, you're doing.
No.
And that's just quite a change. So normally there's a story there. That's interesting. That's great that you knew somebody, right, as a connection to get in. And then I have to ask, you took some time, you stepped back, you attended rehab in 2016. And then why did you go back to Dottie's? Was it just you really enjoyed working there, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the job, and I didn't want to work in the hair industry anymore. So was at Dottie's, and then I left and went to rehab, and then I had kept in contact with the people I had known at Dottie's. And when I came back to Las Vegas, then I came right back to work and started working as a bartender again.
Got it. I did notice through your history at Dottie's, you were promoted up rather quickly. We had some great testimony from Ms. Graziano, from others about how responsive you are and how hardworking you are. And as you stated as well, you're willing to do anything to make sure the job gets done. That's very commendable, and kudos to you. for moving up so quickly and having, you know, the support of your employer in this instance as well, considering all the facts. I guess just generally, what do you like about working at the Dottie's kind of group or the company overall? And what do you think really makes you have been so successful so quickly there?
I've worked under great people that have helped teach me along the way to be the way that I am. And the things that I have learned is because of those people. The thing I love the most about Dottie is the day changes. It's always different. I don't always go to the same location and see the same people and, you know, have the same day to day. It is changing, and it could be a really slow day or a hectic day. One day I could go to as many as 8 locations a day, or I could only be at 1 or 2. So you get to kind of control that aspect of it, but it's never boring. Never boring.
Yes. And you mentioned, I believe you said you're over 49 locations. Is that correct?
Correct.
Over 5 store managers, direct reports?
Yes.
And of those properties, what type of properties are they? I understand it's a mix of restricted and non-restricted. Do you? So what I have, I'm not trying to trick you, is that you're over 40 restricted and 9 non-restricted. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Yes, I think that's
Okay.
correct.
All right. And again, not trying to trick you. And then who do you report directly to? Like, who are you in contact to? If something comes up, you need to let someone know, like, who is your direct report to?
Thomas Castro is who I report to directly.
And what's your communication like with Mr. Katsaris?
As far as like
How
often
regular,
are we
yeah.
communicating?
Yeah.
Whenever necessary or needed, we talk, whether it's through email or on the phone. And then I also communicate with other general managers to help with guidance along the way of what needs to be done.
Like being consistent over all of them, right? Because there's in your position, there's a few others I saw on the chart, right? That also have the same position. And then I noticed it said that you're also responsible for helping develop new products or prizes and for customers or promotional materials. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I am the points concept manager. So I help bring in new products and stuff to the points concept, whether it's changing out liquor or food items, other beverages, getting that, and then making sure that the whole company is updated and knows that and how it is to be displayed. So it is universal across the board.
That's great. Well, and then I wanted to turn a little bit to the areas that the chairman discussed in a little more detail, which is, as you discussed a little bit, is your prior drug use. And I feel like a record has been made on that. And you've been very proactive in the way that you attended rehab, I understand. But just for the record, I guess you started using around 2009, is that correct?
Correct.
But then you stopped in January 2016 and you attended rehab and you went on your own to go do that affirmatively, which is great. Good job. But then unfortunately you relapsed in November of 2020. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Since then, as the chairman said, you've been sober almost 3 years, which is since April 15th, 2023.
Yes.
So it'll be 3 years next month. Bless you. So kind of what the judge was kind of alluding to there, sometimes these opiates can be highly addictive, and I understand you're taking, measures to ensure that you stay on track and you're just doing complete abstinence essentially from any substances. So you stated that includes alcohol, like cigarettes and everything.
Everything.
Correct? Okay. I appreciate that. And I think that's great. And, because it's such an addictive nature, it's a little concerning for me in that regard. There is a proposed condition associated with this item and I'm not sure if you're familiar with that language already and you've discussed it, but there's discussion about potentially having Ms. Putnam will submit to random drug testing in a time, manner, and place which the Nevada Gaming Control Board determines appropriate at her cost and expense for a period of 36 months, which is 3 years. And I would, probably suggest and be open to what my colleagues think on timing wise, but I would, propose somewhere from quarterly to biannually. So either every 3 months or every 6 months, perhaps for that 3-year period. I do understand that you were randomly drug tested by our agents as part of this investigation process, and it was no problem and clean. And I'm very happy to hear that. The part that kind of just, concerns me is the addictive nature of it, as it's kind of actually had evidence and testified here, heard. So I don't know your thoughts or you want to think about that, but I'd be interested to hear what my colleagues think on that regard as to that issue. And then just to quickly touch base on the unreported 2023 income for your taxes. I understand you did report some stuff for that year. It was just maybe like a mishap or a mistake, an overlap in the fact that you forgot to submit additionally your Dottie's income for that year. And I appreciate you stating that, you're going to do a better job of making sure. And since then that you're checking that, and I get mistakes can happen. So not worried on that regard, but I did also note that you're paying down, that you recently are paying off some of your debt and you made some decisions to sell some vehicles. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And can you tell me about what precipitated that decision and kind of what your kind of financial planning payment is looking like there?
My husband is a car guy. So he always buys and sells cars and does things like that. He has had projects ongoing, and we made the determination to sell those said vehicles to pay down that debt that he has accumulated across the years. We are getting older. We don't want to work forever. So it's just trying to make better decisions overall.
Good for you. Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I was curious if you did that because of the investigation was ongoing, or if that was
Well,
just.
I'm sure he'll buy another car in the future. Don't say there won't ever be one, but
That's his hobby. You have the dogs and then he has the cars.
I can't even play pickup basketball. Way cheaper, right? Like
Right.
cars, but no, it's, it comes and goes. But again, I am getting older and I don't want to work for a million years.
Right. Well, and I appreciate just that, you are working towards doing that. And that's kind of the other basis, like trying to ensure your financial situation. And then, more so for me, the highly addictive nature, right? And you're doing all the right things, and I totally support your application. I would, though, also be willing to and want to throw out there the possibility maybe of like a 3-year limited license, just to provide us some time, because this licensing is forever. So once you're licensed, indefinitely. You don't have to come back to us unless we were to limit it. Obviously, if we had we still have jurisdiction over you. If we had any concern, for example, the condition that I mentioned about the testing, right? If something were to come back positive or your employer were to inform us, we could potentially, take action in that regard or do something. So that was kind of where I was at, is potentially just as a check-in, because it still allows you to do everything you would do, right? It would just be a limited license potentially, should, my colleagues want to entertain that, in that then perhaps you would come back at a future date and we would check in and you would tell us that your taxes are all still really good and you've paid off all your debt maybe, and that you've been totally clean even longer and you have more dogs. I don't know. So whatever you would have going on is kind of where I'm at, but I'm very impressed, I support you. And so I'm here to support your application, but just, with those considerations, just can you continue in that regard? So that's kind of where I'm at, Chairman, right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Sandal. I guess from my perspective, I'll speak to those two parts. The condition as drafted says that the Nevada Gaming Control Board determines appropriate the time, place, and manner. So from my perspective, there's no need to say by quarter. And in fact, I think it's actually better to have true randomness, because let's say you do the quarter one, and you'd have in your mind that potentially you wouldn't have another one for 90 days. So from my perspective, the condition's fine. And the board will continue to dictate random testing. That could be one and then the next day another, or another 6 months, don't know. But I think the condition's fine. With respect to the limitation, very impressed with your presentation here today. It takes a lot of guts to do and say the things you've been doing and the things you're saying here today. I would agree with my colleague, Member Sendall, that a 3-year limitation is a good idea in this circumstance, but I definitely want you to look at that in a very positive way. That gives you 3 years to just continue, day by day, block by block, building what you're building, right? And we will, as my colleague said, check in on you in 3 years. And the expectation is, all things will be great. And, all of that, we have a strong confidence in you. But let's look at this as an opportunity to check in 3 years. So on that basis, I would keep the condition as drafted and support the 3 limitation with that understanding that it's a good thing. So, Judge Assad.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Dreitzer. They believe in you. Ms. Graziano believes in you. Mr. Smith believes in you. I believe in you. I don't think we need to babysit you. I think you're doing great. You're on the road to recovery. I agree that random drug testing is best. I don't think we need to put any monthly or quarterly kind of a, requirement on that. So I agree with the chairman there. And I would prefer just to give you an unlimited license myself, but that's just me.
Okay, any further discussion amongst the board?
May I just ask a procedural question of the DAG as far as the motion language? If I propose a motion with a limitation, and then also I can just say and subject to or pursuant to a condition along that, right? There's no problem doing that.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks. I don't have anything further. Thank you, Chairman.
Very good. In which case, I will accept a motion from either colleague.
Chairman Dreitzer, I move to recommend approval of non-restricted agenda item number 18 as read into the record by Madam Secretary Rupert, subject to a 3-year limitation due to expire at midnight on the day of the Nevada Gaming Commission meeting in March 2029. Pursuant to the following condition, Ms. Putman will submit to random drug testing in the manner, time, and place which the Nevada Gaming Control Board determines appropriate at her cost and expense for a period of 36 months.
Discussion on the motion?
I support you and look forward to seeing you in 3 years, well to go, and hopefully approving a full licensure with no limitation. Thank you.
Very good. With that, Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Sendall?
Aye.
Chairman Dreitzer?
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. With that, Madam Secretary, please read in our last non-restricted item today, number 19.
Non-restricted number 19 is the application of Deborah Mick for licensure as a key employee at Jackpot Joni's RW LLC, doing business as Golden West Restaurant and Casino.
Good morning, Mr. Moran.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Still morning.
Yeah, still in the morning, briefly.
Very
Good
good.
morning, Mr. Chair, Judge Assad, Member Sendall, and Madam Executive Secretary Rupert. John Moran with the law firm of Hutchison and Steffen appearing before you today on behalf of Eclipse Route Operations LLC, doing business as ECL Gaming, and for key employee and applicant, Ms. Deborah Mick, as General Manager at Golden West Restaurant and Casino in the city of Mesquite, Nevada, located at 91 East Mesquite Boulevard on non-restricted item number 19. The location has been open for upwards of 30 years. It is a non-conforming, non-restricted location with an approval of up to 50 machines currently. As of today, we have 48 machines on the floor out there in Mesquite. Mr. Chair, I don't have an affirmative presentation this morning, but I know our applicant would like to tell the board about these 3 items. Number 1, her journey through the hospitality industry in the state of Nevada, from Keno runner at Stations Casino to her instant employment opportunity presented at the Golden West. Number 2, she'd like to highlight
her duties and responsibilities as a key employee and general manager for the Golden West Casino. And number 3, individual financial probity, her individual financial probity or fitness to hold senior or sensitive positions such as that at Golden West, specifically her credit history and past gambling activities. I do know firsthand, Mr. Chair and membership, that the ECL team has been very impressed with Ms. Mick's performance over the past year plus. She has been active in the local community. And from what I can discern from your recent press release of 2/27 entitled Win Revenue Summary, which takes into account gaming win in the city of Mesquite, and it is up 14.09% comparing the prior period, which is January of 2025, against the current period, which was January of 2026. I wanted you to be aware of that and refresh recollection as to that particular metric. We believe that Ms. Mick is part of that positive metric, along with the other folks similarly situated in that marketplace. But bottom line, ECL Gaming is thrilled to have Ms. Mick on the team. Let me thank leadership in the investigations division, including Agent Chad Jackson. And with that, Mr. Chair and membership, appreciate your time. I'd like to now introduce Ms. Mick, who is sitting to my right.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Ms. Mick, welcome, and we would be happy to hear your affirmative presentation on those topics and whatever else you'd like to share.
Okay, no. Good morning. Please let me begin by saying thank you to the board for giving me this opportunity to apply for this privileged key employee license. I know how privileged it is to have this kind of a license, and I don't take that lightly. Also, thank you to the Agent Jackson and Agent Barbie for their patience and understanding while I gathered all this pertinent information to get to this process. In addition, thank you to Mr. Ron Winchell, Jennifer Lee Genovese, and JT Moran for bringing me into ECL Gaming and offering me this general manager position of Golden West and Casino. My name is Deborah Lee Mick. I was born in Spokane, Washington, and raised in Las Vegas. I've been here my entire life. I attended Bonanza High School. In my earlier years, I was very interested in law enforcement. However, once I learned I was expecting my first child, the trajectory of my career path changed quickly. It was shortly after the birth of my daughter that my journey began in the hospitality industry. In the early 90s, I started at Stations Casino as a keno runner. It was something completely out of my realm of doing anything, but I learned quickly how much fun it was. And I decided, since my daughter's father worked there currently, it probably wasn't the best location to be employed at. So therefore, I moved on to the Riviera Hotel. And that in itself was an incredible experience. I was there during the casino filming. I started Keno Runner there. I was doing that for about 1.5 years. And then that is when I decided that I wanted to move into food and beverage. And from there, I was a cocktail server. I stayed there until opening of the Monte Carlo, which my food and beverage manager moved over to the Monte Carlo, and he brought me with him. There was about 6 of us that he took. And I was so incredibly proud of that move, opening up a casino ground floor. It was amazing. Thereafter, though, I decided to move off the strip, and I opened the Rampart Casino. And that was fun. That was interesting. And I stayed there for a long time. And then it's currently now the resort at Summerlin. But it was that time where I worked in the slot, I served in slots, table games, high limits, poker, and I was their lead cocktail server. I was also training all of the new cocktail servers at that time as well. I was offered the assistant general manager position, and I just realized that I wasn't ready. I was too young, so I declined that position. During my time at the Rampart, I met my husband at the time, and we had a baby. So in 2005, my son was born, and I did not return back to the Rampart. That's when I got into the local gaming industry, local gaming bars. I worked at PT's for a short period of time and a couple of other local bars in the area. During that time, I decided to work at mainly Sego's was my main job for about 8 years. I was their general manager there for the most of the time that I was there. Started just bartending and then quickly moved into the general manager position. It was in 2023 when my daughter, who is stationed in Florida in the Navy, she was expecting her first child. So after heavy consideration, I resigned my position of 8 years and I moved to Florida to be with my daughter. The reason by my decision is because her and her husband were not married at the time. And being a single mom for a good portion of my life, I did not want that for my daughter. So I got my son graduated and I moved my whole life to Florida. Did not have a real stable job at the time when I moved, not the brightest idea, but I did it for my daughter. And I would do it again for my daughter. During that time, I worked at Naval Station Mayport. I was held the assistant catering manager position there, including bar manager. That was a position that was created for me by the catering director. She was due to retire and she wanted me to take over that position. I was incredibly blessed to be offered that position. I stayed there for about a year. And during that time, I was also working as a bartender part-time on the beach. The reason for the two jobs is because I went there with a lot of debt. And I needed to make sure that I was able to sustain myself without relying on anybody else. I was not proud of the debt that I went there with. It cost me a lot of money to move there, and due to previous gambling issues prior to going out there, that was the debt that I carried with me. I was very confident that no matter what I did, I would be paying off that debt, whether it was in Florida or here. I tried for 18 months. I got to watch my granddaughter grow up to be 18 months old. I was there for her birth, but I could not sustain out there. Her and her husband finally became husband and wife. They finally are co-located and living together in Jacksonville. So it was December of 2025, I decided it was time to come home. I have my mom who lives in Pahrump who is extremely ill. That was another deciding factor. My son and my livelihood. It was a tough decision, but I don't regret that one for one bit. Coming back, I came back with about $50,000 in debt. Not something I'm proud of, but what is projected since I started ECL Gaming, I'm very proud of. I was very fortunate to make a phone call and have an interview and get hired onto ECL Gaming. And I interviewed with Mr. Winchell and with Miss Genovese, and they hired me and gave me this opportunity. I have since then moved immediately out to, as soon as I was offered the position, I didn't hesitate. I moved directly to Mesquite. There was no thought process. This was a door that opened to me, and I was incredibly blessed and grateful for it. Since then, with the $50,000 in debt that I accrued, I am now down to $36,000. That includes past arrears of on my house, which I did not want to lose. Another reason why I came back. Mainly it was credit card debt. And like I said, I'm down to 36,000 and I'm incredibly proud of that. And moving forward, I anticipate by hopefully the middle of this year to be down to 15,000 because I am extremely focused and dedicated. Sorry, I got a little off track. But with my position at Golden West, I oversee the front of the house and back of the house daily operations daily. I'm literally 2 minutes from the restaurant. If anybody needs me at any given time, if I am not on property, I can be there. I oversee the drops weekly with my assistant general manager, Jeff Lackey, who is also there if I am not there. He is, if seeing I'm in Vegas, he is on property or very close to it if he's not working. I do the inventory for liquor on a monthly basis. I do all the ordering. I do all the daily deposits for revenue, our sales for food and for gaming. I make sure that the accountability is within the employees. When I took over, there was a little bit of, not a whole lot of structure within that aspect. And now there's a little bit more of accountability where that stands. Since moving there, the town has grown exponentially. Mesquite is not just a retirement community. There's like a whole different age demographic that's moving in there. It's a younger version. A lot of people are moving from Utah to Mesquite because of the gaming and because of the job opportunities. So I'm thrilled to be there and be a part of this. And I appreciate the opportunities that this has been given to me. And I appreciate the board allowing me to apply for this.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Mick. We appreciate that. Judge Assad, why don't you start with comments, questions?
Thank you, Chairman Dreitzer. Thank you for being here. Mr. Moran, always great to see you as well. That's a very compelling story, and I commend you for your success. I think you're on the right track, and hopefully, you get those credit card payments under control. So you have, what about 3 or 4 people that directly report to you, I guess?
Yes, I do. I have Jeff Lackey, who is my assistant general manager, and my right hand. He's been amazing. He took on that role probably about 2 months ago, a little over 2 months ago. I have my kitchen manager who reports to me, and then the rest of the staff. I have about 26 employees, front and back of the house.
And then you report to Jennifer Lee?
Directly, yes.
And then she'll report to Mr. Winchell?
Correct.
Very good, very good. You still have about a dozen credit cards?
I do.
You got to rip those up. Just go
Moving
with like
forward,
one card.
I stick them in the freezer when they get paid off.
I mean,
I
why
have
keep them?
5
Just
paid
rip
off.
them off, rip them up, cut them up and pay off. You got to make an extra payment besides the interest every month. Just send an extra payment in for principal only. It's the only way you're going to get this paid off.
Yes, sir.
But you can't keep 12 credit cards. It's just too tempting to be able to use one to pay the other or whatever, however you get in trouble doing those things. I know the
Agreed.
Capital One, they have one that offers 2% back on every transaction. So, I mean, my advice is just rip them all up, get them down to 1, maybe 2, and apply extra payments to principal only. Have a plan. Do you have a plan? A specific plan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do. I pay extra every month. I pay extra.
Okay, because otherwise they're going to strangle you. I mean, at the first, you won't be the last person that got all tangled up with credit card debt. But other than that, I commend you for your work experience and your history. I'm in support of your application. Commend Mr. Winchell for taking a chance on you. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judge. Member Sendall.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mick, for kind of taking the time to walk through everything. I appreciate that. You did answer some of my questions that I had about your past and why you moved to Florida. It's very commendable of you to help your daughter. I have 3 little kids, and my mother was a big help to me as well. So it definitely takes a village. So good on you for doing that. So a little bit more about your past. I didn't realize you worked at the Rampart before, and you have great experience, gaming industry experience. And it was kind of looking at what I had in my materials. I was like, wow, I can't believe this is the first time you're in a GM role, but I guess it sounds like you had other opportunities, and then also working at Sego's Tavern. That was a restricted location. Is that correct?
Correct. I've always been a general manager, starting back in, oh my goodness, at Lahaina, actually, up off of Hualapai. First, it was just the bar manager, but then the general manager left, and I moved into that role. Somehow I always get moved into the role. I'm like, oh, I don't want it, but then I'm there. But that's part of me.
Yeah,
That's who I am.
It's a compliment to I'm sure your work ethic and the way you do your job.
I pride myself in my work ethics, very much so.
So how did you learn about this position at Golden West, and just a little bit about, your transition to living in Mesquite?
It's kind of funny, actually, because I moved back in January, and I was staying with my mom out in Pahrump, and I just got back within like a little over a week. And I gave myself a little mourning period of leaving my daughter and my granddaughter. And not to mention I was sick. So I gave myself some time just to refocus. And then I got ready and I said, I'm going to Vegas, Mom. I said, I'm going to get me a job. And that was my goal that day. And I went around to a couple of the local places, that I knew, might be hiring. Anyway, I just happened to pick up the phone, and I've known Jennifer Lee for a long time. We used to work together many years ago at the Rampart,
Okay.
ironically. And I said, hey, you want to meet for lunch? She goes, I'm actually at lunch. She goes, are you back in town? And I said, I am back in town. She goes, oh my gosh. She goes, well, stop by the corporate office. I was like, well, where's it at? Anyway, long story short, I stopped by just to chit chat. And she said, are you looking for a job? And I go, well, yep, I am. And she goes, well, do you want to work here? And I was like, yes, so the game plan was I was going to run one of the local locations in Vegas. They had some remodeling coming up at I'm not sure exactly which one it was, but it was on Eastern. And so I was initially going to go there. And then Golden West came available within, I don't know, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. And she asked me if I would be interested. And I'm like, well, I guess I could commute, because I'm thinking I'm going to move back into my house once my renters are gone and then commute. She goes, no, you'd have to move. And I literally packed up that weekend once everything was done, and I moved.
So do you rent currently out at Mesquite?
I do.
Yeah.
A little studio, but I do. Yeah.
And that's nice and good for you, and that's working.
It is.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I'm very much a homebody.
Yeah.
I'm either outside or I'm at home. I just, I don't know. I do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
I'm an outdoorsy person. I like camping. Golf season's coming back up, so I'm kind of happy about that.
You
I'm gonna
play
get
golf?
back. I used to golf a lot. When I say a lot, like 3 times a month. But then I got out of it because I was busy with the bars and kids and this. But now I'm single, I can do what I want, I
think there's a lot of golf courses out at Mesquite.
There is,
so you're
and I'm
in the
not
right
restricted
spot.
to watching kids. So,
Live it up.
I plan on it.
Well, I mean, as you pay your debt, which we'll get to in a minute. So
Well,
yeah, maybe
it's
not live
definitely a cheaper entertainment for sure. And fun.
Yes. Yes. Okay, but you mentioned you own a property.
I
right,
do.
that you'll say, and you still have that and that's working fine and you have
Yep.
renters and there's no issue in getting
Nope.
payment, rental payment from that.
Everything is completely caught up.
And you essentially manage that property then yourself.
I manage that property. I had a property manager. I fired him when I moved back to Vegas.
Gotcha.
They didn't do anything for me, but take my money.
Gotcha. And that doesn't take up your time, obviously. you have
Nope. If
plenty of
something needs
bandwidth,
fixed,
right.
I address it immediately. If I can't fix it or Google to fix it, I will hope to get someone to fix it, but there's been no issues.
Good. And then the judge was asking you about some of you report directly to Miss Lee. And then my understanding is Miss Branch is back in the kitchen side and
Correct.
non-gaming side. And how's she doing there?
She's strictly in the kitchen.
Okay.
She has nothing to do with the front of the house.
Okay. Does she report to you too?
She does.
Okay. Good. And then Mr. Brent Stevens?
He is no longer.
Oh, he's no longer. And then who's in that role then?
Jeff Lackey.
Jeff Lackey.
Lackey.
Yeah, I see that. Okay. When did that happen?
About 2 months ago.
Okay. So what's something interesting or unique to working out at a gaming property out in Mesquite that you can share with us?
It's a very tight-knit community. It's very home. They're very family-oriented there. Everybody knows everybody. That is unique. I mean, I've worked in gaming bars my whole life where, oh yes, your customers are, you're really good friends. They're like family here. And they're welcoming. Sometimes it's a little tough, but for the most part, everybody gets along with everybody, and it's very tight-knit. It's very tight-knit group.
So how often are you in, how many direct reports or how often are you in communication with your staff? I would say I understand
daily.
you have Miss Lee above, and so daily, yeah.
Daily. Jeff and I speak daily, whether it's in visual, text, or email.
Gotcha.
We talk daily.
And he lives out there too?
He does.
Yeah. Pretty much all the employees live out there?
You have to.
Yeah,
It's too far of a drive.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I haven't been out there a long time.
You should come out. It's beautiful. It's growing and it's very pretty.
Yeah, it's a very pretty area.
Yeah.
I've been out there to play golf, but many, many, many years ago.
Me as well. Me and my ex-husband used to golf out there.
Okay.
So
I'm assuming that must be a lot of the foot traffic. What kind of people do you see? Is it a lot of local play or is it touristy or a mix?
It's a lot of local play.
Okay.
We have the same people that come in every single day, which is great.
Yeah.
That's a loyal gaming base. Yeah. And that's what you want.
That's excellent. All right. So talking a little bit more about your finances, I understand in your old position, you kind of would gamble more. Can you just briefly touch upon that and kind of what your gambling habits look like today?
Nothing like they were before, not even remotely close.
And so what was the period then where what I have, and you can correct me if I'm incorrect, but 2019 to 2023 was kind of the period where you had difficulty making payments on some of your stuff.
Yes.
But that was also just because of certain job responsibilities.
At
that time.
It comes with, unfortunately, it came with the territory, you get off work and your customers come in, they want you to stay, they want you to, that kind of thing. And then we would, go see other bartenders and they would come see us.
And this is a normal practice of what I generally understand.
Yes.
Okay. No, that's, I appreciate you explaining that. It sounds like you're in a very different environment now.
Extremely. I'm in a better head.
That you have to deal with?
Yeah.
At all?
Nope. I'm in a better headspace, growth wise. I've grown so much in the last a year, but the last 3 years, it's been humbling.
Right.
And I'm very proud of how I've come.
Well, and I understand that you're currently making an extra payment each month
Mhm.
to lower your outstanding bills. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it sounds like in your affirmative presentation that you plan to continue to do that and work off and maybe cut in half your current existing debt that you mentioned.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, I'm really supportive and I appreciate you answering all my questions. I'm sorry to kind of drag you through all that, but I think it's important for the record. And as I mentioned in the last applicant, it's a forever license. So I just want to make sure I'm comfortable and, understand where you're at. That said, I feel differently with your, record and your background and your experience and the concern, the issue here. I feel comfortable supporting your application currently and as an outright, license. Obviously, I, would just implore you to continue, as the judge said, whatever, rip them up or throw them in the freezer, whatever you talked about, but to continue to work down, paying down your debt. And I wish you success and hopefully more time on the golf course. So.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you, Member Sendall. Ms. Mick, how are you held accountable from your perspective in terms of the payment plan you have?
How am I held accountable? Because it's my life. And if I refuse to settle for being in debt or leaving it to my family to have to deal with that, that's my accountability. I did it, I own it, and it's my responsibility. It's nobody else's. It's not my kids, it's not my mother, it's no one's, it's mine.
Very good. And I know Member Sendall touched on this with respect to the gambling aspect. So that particular temptation it's a lot less based upon your current condition. I
don't even have it. I really don't. I don't need it. I'm just so focused first on my job for one. I don't want to have to worry about, I don't want to have to think about, oh, I got to go gamble here. It's not an addiction for me. Had it been, it would continue on. It was when I left for Florida, I didn't even think about it. It was not a thing for me. It was my coping mechanism, I feel, out of just something to do. When I went through my divorce, that was a tough time for me. Sure. I didn't handle it well. I'm not proud of it, but there's worse things I guess I could have done, and I chose to be by myself. And then when you're by yourself, sometimes you just do things that you shouldn't do,
I appreciate that. And I've been sitting here listening intently relative to some of these details, which I said to an earlier applicant, it's hard to do to get up here and talk about the details and shortcomings in your life. So I really appreciate that you were able to do that. I feel you did it with, great candor, and that you have been really thinking a lot about the mistakes you made and how you can use that information to inform better choices going forward. It means a lot that Mr. Winchell and his team, as the judge indicated, support you. And that it looks like you have a good support system around you in terms of work and hopefully in private life as well. So look, I support your application. It sounds like you've been doing good work at the property. It sounds like the results have been in the pudding, so to speak, and numbers are up, as Mr. Moran indicated. So, I think you're thinking about things the right way, and we support a comeback story and a second chance, so to speak. So you've addressed all of my concerns through the questions of my colleagues and the couple of questions I had here, and I am prepared to support your application.
Thank you.
Very good. With that, I'll accept a motion.
Thank you, Chairman Dreitzer. I move to recommend approval of non-restricted agenda item number 19 as read into the record by Madam Secretary Rupert.
Thank you very much, Member Sendall. Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Sendall?
Aye.
Chairman Dreitzer?
Aye, passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
This week. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you all.
Thank you so
Take care.
much.
Very good. With that, Madam Secretary, this brings us to our last item on our agenda, the public comment.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters. As stated at the time of the public comment section at the beginning of the meeting, anyone wishing to address the board may do so at this time. Comments by each person are limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If board members ask questions of the speaker, the time needed to address those questions will not count against the speaker's 3-minute time period. If speakers have any handouts or written copies of verbal comments to provide for the record, please hand them to the enforcement agent in the room.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Pursuant to state open meeting law, matters brought to the board's attention during public comment cannot be acted upon. However, we're happy to hear comments from the public as well as from my fellow board members during this public comment section of our agenda. So with that, first, let's go to Carson City. If there's anyone in Carson City wishing to make a public comment, please step forward to the podium. Seeing none, is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to step forward to make a public comment at this time? Seeing none and that no one else wishes to speak, that will close our public comment section, thus fully concluding the Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting for the month of March 2026. We appreciate all of you attending in person or virtually, and we are hereby adjourned. Thank you.